kind of feel like I should just go take them now, but then
Study a little bit.
yeah, I know.
Did I tell you what I did on mine?
No.
So you go and you sit through that. Well, they give you, it prints out right away if you passed or not. I'm looking for like a score. So I pick up the paper and I'm like, where's my score, where's my score, where's my score?
It's a pass-fail thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, how do I know if I passed or not? And the guy looks at me and goes, because it says across the top, congratulations, you passed. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch down here too. Do you want me to get those the date first?
Yeah, actually, here, I signed one, but not the rest. All right, it is 6 o'clock, and we are ready to start. I believe we have a quorum. Yes, we do have a quorum. So we'll call the meeting to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Got a big crowd tonight. Well, you know, everyone who's important is here. All right. First item on the agenda is to actually adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam Chairman, I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Second by Tammy. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Russell, we're putting you down as an aye. Okay, next is the consent agenda items, and on the consent agenda, it appears we have the minutes from April 9th and payment of the bills. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda items.
Second that motion.
Second by David. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I need to abstain for approving check, I don't know what number it is, because I can't get up here, but...
But the one to two guys flooring.
Yes.
So noted. All right, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, and an abstention on one check to two guys flooring for Cassie. All right, we are down to the school reports, and we get an EHS Red Devil Ranch report.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I recommend that we skip to the principal reports right now until the Red Devil Ranch students get here.
You mean you're rolling too fast? All right.
All right, yeah.
All right, who's first on the principals? I see Diane.
We're going to make them short since we have a long meeting tonight. Chairman and board members, I first of all just want to thank the staff for teacher appreciation at North Elementary for everything they do. That is everybody included. One of our staff members was gone to a funeral, and the music program, one of the support staff took over and did the program for her during her absence. So she went beyond, and that's just one of the many ways in which the staff support each other and the work that's being done at North, so thank you to them. As well as North has been one of 15 schools, as well as Clark is involved as well, as we have been selected as a PLC cohort, the same selection that UNM Meadow was last year. We have that opportunity. It is a 3-year commitment with the state and Solution Trees. They come in, they work with our school. They're coming in and doing a needs assessment this week. Then from there, we will send some team members to different trainings next year in the 3 years, as it helps to drive our professional development in the years to come as we become stronger and become more, have a better understanding of the PLC process and what it means for our students and our staff. So, thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, Madam Chair, members of the board. I just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of brag about my specials team at Clark Elementary. They have, Diane was talking about the PLC work that we've been doing as a school, and they have really jumped in as a team at our school. They work with the district content area people as well, but at our school, they meet regularly every week, and they are working hard on some common assessments for some what we would call or consider soft skills like teamwork and things that a growth mindset, really working on perseverance and resilience, and they're working on a common formative assessment for that and a proficiency scale for that, and so I was really proud of them for taking on the work and finding a way to make it meaningful for them as a team. As well, I'd like to share with you that they approached me this winter sometime, and they said, we would like to provide all of our students with an opportunity to have a Teton Science School-like experience. And I said, okay, tell me more about what you're thinking. And so what they're going to do and what they're working on now is the second to last week of school, they're going to take a whole grade level at a time out to Bear River State Park, and they're going to spend the whole day out there from 9 or 10 on Monday till the end of the day with a grade level a day, giving them an opportunity to rotate through different stations out there, but have some kind of place-based education outside, and as well as include, our music teacher is going to have some science outdoor activities, but that are music related, and they're going to split the kids into 4 different groups, so they'll be working in a small group like they do at Teton Science School. It's a pretty huge undertaking for my specials team to do that, and in turn they're giving up any kind of lunchtime, any kind of break at all for the 5 days that the kids will be participating in that. But they are just so committed and so excited to offer our students that opportunity, and our students are going to have a taste of kind of what building up to 5th grade, what that's going to be like. Also, we've kind of prepped our 5th graders. They're at Teton Science School this week, and we've told them, when you come back, you're going to be like student mentors. We're breaking them up throughout the week, so they'll go out and kind of guide the kids and help kind of mentor as well in smaller groups of 5th graders. So I'm just really proud of the work they've done. I'm proud of all of my teachers, but I wanted to kind of highlight my specials team. It's Mr. Richens, Mr. Denham, Mrs. Boyer, and Mr. Cox. They've really kind of gone above and beyond this year to give our kids an opportunity they haven't had before. So, awesome. Thanks.
So cool.
That's a very cool idea.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Is that it for principals? Are we ready for the ranch?
We may have to cut in later in the agenda.
We will table for now the ranch. Let's start with our discussion items then. We'll move on to that, and then when we're ready, go back to the Red Devil Ranch. All right, so first on the agenda is our 2019-20 board meeting schedule.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you do have this document in your board docs. If you recall, we put this together at the time when we changed the board meetings to the first Tuesday at 6, with the understanding we'd revisit it in May and approve it in June. So this one is basically the changes we made. So it's the first Tuesday, with the 5th Tuesday a possibility of a to-be-determined work session if needed. Everything is basically not changed. Potentially, and I'm sure Chairman Bracken will talk about some other options, is potentially changing the time. But it's time for discussion. You want to keep it the way it is? Do you want to make changes? We're all ears.
Still first Tuesday? Is that what these are?
Yeah, still the first Tuesday, so it's the same day every month. I mean, the same, first Tuesday.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had talked to Ryan about a little bit, and I want to know what you guys think. Sorry, I'm not done with that one, sorry. Last week, we were able to come a little bit early and do the executive session first, get that out of the way, and have that done, so that when we started the regular board meeting, we were ready to go and could just go straight through without a break. I was curious if we kept the start time at 6 o'clock, but started with our executive session content, and then had regular board meetings at 7. I don't know how the staff would feel about that. I don't know how the board would feel about that. But it would give us an opportunity to get the executive session, if any, out of the way. And then if we don't have an exec session, then we'd start at, 6:30 or 7. But it gives you a little more, it gets it, like I say, it gets it out of the way so nobody's waiting for us to finish up on exec, and, you don't have people waiting for some action items.
I don't mind doing the executive session first. I thought that worked really well. I think we need to be consistent with our start time for the board meetings, though. So.
Well, and that was the question. I mean, if we still start at 6, but always do an exec session first.
Right, but even if we don't have an executive session, we still start the board meeting at the same time. That would be my only concern, is that we do.
So we'd start at 7 for the regular board meeting every time, or 6:30 for the regular board meeting and start at 5:30, or whatever you guys want to do. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
It's at 7 or it's at 6?
On this schedule, it's on 6, but what?
Right now, this schedule starts at 6, but it starts with the regular board meeting.
Sure, yeah. So you're
I don't like the
proposing,
idea of starting at 7.
you're proposing that we start at 5 if we have an executive session, starting at 6?
Or 5, yeah. Or 5:30. I mean, last month, we started at 5:30, ended at 6:30, and then went into the regular session. So, yeah, if we have a start time at 6 o'clock, depending on how lengthy the exec session is, at least people know that up front, and, Sheila doesn't have to come until 45 minutes later, or whatever, or the staff doesn't have to come until 45 minutes later. And then, I mean, we'd give a start time for the regular session, estimating what we have to discuss, and it may be that we don't have an exec and we start at 6. It may be that we have a half hour and we start at 6:30 with the regular session. It may be 6:45, but we always start at 6. Does that make sense, Jenny?
Well,
Yeah,
kind of. You said
kind of.
if we don't have an executive session, we could start later.
Right, we could, or we could start right at 6.
I just think we need to keep the board meeting schedule time the same, no
So
matter what.
if we always had 6 to 7 as exec, and then if we don't, we always start at 7.
Yeah.
And then my other concern would be, now that we don't have work sessions, we have long meetings. I don't want to be here till 11 or midnight. So I
Right.
would rather start at 6 and be done before 10
So
than going later.
could we do exec sessions at 5 or 5:30 then?
Yeah,
then
that's what I'm
start at
saying.
6,
I
7,
think doing the exec session
At 5:30?
beforehand is a great idea.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
if we
think so
started
too.
exec session at 5:30, regular board meeting at, say, 6, or 6, probably?
Well, if you know it's going to be a lengthy
Maybe
executive
6:30.
session, then we would need to
Start
go
at
at
5.
5.
Or maybe we
But-
start at 5, yeah.
If it's not going to be lengthy, the exec session starts at 5:30, but we always have the board meeting time at
Okay.
6.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Are you guys?
You guys good with
Yeah,
that?
so that way the only people who need to be informed of a change is
It's just
this
us,
group.
what time to start earlier.
It feels kinder.
It does feel kinder. Probably better for these guys, too, that have to sit around and wait.
I just foresee that we could run into situations where we anticipate it's going to be 30 minutes and it's an hour. And so we're going to run our start
Either way,
time.
someone's waiting.
Yeah, what we could do is, we'd always break at 6 for the regular meeting, and you could always go back to executive session at the end.
Right.
If we had
I probably should turn mine off, too.
$5 on the table.
That was for me.
Oh,
It was my computer.
So if you guys are okay with that, that kind of concept, we'll have the regular start time at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then just adjust the exec session first accordingly, and then nobody has to wait around for us.
Sure. Yeah, I'm good with that. You guys?
All right?
okay. Second, or excuse me, first Tuesday, still
First Tuesday.
just different time. Okay, great. One other question, if I start the meeting at 5 based on need, do you want us to provide you a lunch, dinner?
We may need some
snack?
Scooby snacks.
Okay, we can do that.
We don't.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Some peanuts.
So this will be modified and up for approval in June.
Okay. I keep thinking this is a touch screen. Okay. Now for the good news, right? Ryan, the budget report.
It is actually good news. I guess it's kind of refreshing. And before we start, just like to, again, thank Mr. Williams. John does a great job with the budget, especially this year. If you remember, we did not get our 100, which is our funding formula, until the 19th of April, which is almost 20 full days later than we usually get it. So John has been crunching numbers, and we've been working together to get to this point. So according to the budget timeline that we presented early in January, we're, I guess, on time. We're where we need to be. So what you see before you is tentative. The 2019-20 specifically is proposed. The 2018-19 is in process. So these are actually what the board approved last year in July. You can see 15-16, 16-17, and 17-18, how we compare. Just going down there, probably the biggest thing that you see is right here. We're up roughly between 850,000 and 900,000 over the previous year. So this is the first year in 5 years that we don't have to cut to break even. So that's good news. The reason for that is increased enrollments. So right now, the average is about 60 that we're up. That will fluctuate before the final budget, so that's why this is tentative. The other reason why we're up is a 1.5, roughly, ECA that was approved by the state this year. So that helped significantly, but it's the enrollment where the big bucks come in. And then the other part of that is savings that we have through our normal processes. When we have someone that retires, we typically end up hiring someone with a less experience, and so we save little dollars there for 1 year. So that's good news. It's great news. It allows us to have some flexibility moving forward. You can see that that change represents about a 2.1% increase over the previous year. So that's a rough estimation of where we are. You can see expenditures specifically. Not a lot of detail. We'll actually provide you these budgets so you can look at them in June. So the breakdown, what they come to, all that stuff. So much more detail, but just now to show you where we are. And again, the good news is when we get down to the bottom, you see that our expenditures do not exceed our revenues. So we do have the potential of definitely balancing the budget, which I don't think is, that's the expectation. Some things here I want you to look at. The changes between the anticipated this year, what we budgeted this year, and the end of the year. If you remember last year, and you can see it down here, the carryover. Last year we spent a significant amount of the carryover on curriculum. We also spent $250,000 on safety features, our Safe Defend, plus we also improved our vestibules. So that's why our expenditures were a little more. The good news on that is we can't get above 15% in the carryover, and we were getting close. So that brought us down to anticipated this year's $5.4 million carryover, which represents about 13.4% of our budget. So healthy, but not to the point that we'd have to send money back to the state. We're not going to do that. We've already talked about, I think, 2 expenditures, one-time expenditures that will potentially come out of the carryover this year. One is the computers for teachers, one-time purchase, and the other one is the renovation at the high school. We're hoping as much as possible can come out of major maintenance, but some things we cannot purchase out of major maintenance, which would be FF&E, furnitures, those kind of things we would have to pay for. We're anticipating less than $100,000 for those improvements. I guess we're excited about that we've got it below $100,000, but those are anticipated coming off the carryover. Potentially there might be something else, but I just can't think of anything right now. So we're in a good place. If you can see with what and how we do this, John actually takes a draft budget for the 19-20 school year, and we make it real. So it has, right now, all the employees that we've hired, all those that have left, with our anticipated increases to staff, benefits. We are roughly in the good now. This shows $4,000 in the black, but right now we're about 6,000 in the good. John just made some changes a few minutes ago. So definitely within reach of balancing the budget. So our budget forecast is good. We have an executive session where we talk about negotiations, and I'll give you some more details about expenditures. Any questions about the budget?
It's nice to get good news every once in a while.
Yes, it is.
It scares me a little bit. That, the shoe's going to drop somewhere else.
Well, it scared me we had to wait so long. It pushed back our insurance renewals. Working with the insurance committee, it pushed everything back, and so it's been pretty furious the last couple of weeks to get to this point with all of our staffing. Again, hats off to John for that work.
Okay, well, I think I see some folks in the back that may be from the farm. We're good to go? We can go back up to our
We ready?
school presentations? So we are at the Red Devil Ranch report.
How are you? Get out of your way.
We have one for, Jarrett, do we have a Chromebook?
Does it have a HDMI?
Let's like log on to someone's computer.
Oh, we got it. Just in case I saw it. Okay. Let's see if it comes up.
Is it gonna work?
I don't know. How do we get it to search? I don't know this computer. I'm sorry.
I have no idea. They say that kids can use technology better these days, but I don't know about that. I have no idea.
I'm not gonna mess with it.
Pass those along.
So it doesn't see it.
Is the other on your, is it like on your drive or your name?
Yeah.
Want to share it with me and you guys?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, look at that.
Click on that right there.
All right, sorry about that.
We're ready?
Yeah.
All right, introduce yourselves.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the board. I'm Bailey Barker, the chapter of our Evanston FFA chapter up at the high school.
And I'm Noah Van Vliet, and I'm the reporter in the officer team.
And we were just here just to give you guys a annual report on our Red Devil Ranch and kind of how things were going, just to touch back on our progress that we've made. So, we've done a lot of accomplishments since we first acquired the piece of land behind the bus barn. We put fences, corrals on all the property. As you can see, we've went from a hay production of about 900 bales the first year to around 1,500 bales now through just land management and using fertilizer, all that fun jazz. We have improved roads through building cattle guards, we've built culverts, and this is all through the kids building this and through going out during school time or even after school, different projects. There's forage production improvement. They have some raised gardens there that they have carrots, beets, potatoes,
You can actually grow something in a garden?
Yeah.
In Evanston?
And it tastes good. It's actual food. It's edible. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. And we've built things in the shop and taken out to the ranch, so like portable sheds to cover our hay crop, different lean-tos, farm equipment, like a box scraper and a snow plow.
Snow blower.
Snow blower. Oh yeah, same thing. We have a cattle herd. We started off with 7 cows, just donated from different community members. We have a very supportive community that have been willing to donate different equipment, different animals to help us keep going with the production of this. And we maintain and manage all aspects of the livestock, the vaccination, the health checks, everything through the agriculture classes at the high school, through the FFA program, and special needs involved. So we get everyone together into helping run this.
Talking about special needs kids feeding?
Yeah, it's a different slide.
Okay.
Okay. So through the range science classes, we have developed a grazing program for our herd. We utilize all available acreage for our grazing and hay production. Students learn about stocking rates to better manage forage use. We enable our students the chance to build real-life skills to help them make more education decisions for their lives. So the biggest focus we have with our range management, range science classes is we hit hard on range management and how we can utilize every piece of ground, and we make sure we get our cows on to our hay ground as soon as we're done cutting. And every acre that we can't hay, we do a rotation, so the cows are grazing on one plot of land for 2-3 weeks, and then we switch them over. And it's just to try to get every bit of ground utilization we can get, and through our rotations we can make it last longer, and it helps develop the skills that us kids can use when we grow up if we have an operation of our own.
So some future projects we're looking into are some geothermal water troughs, and we've done that as school projects. We've had kids research different like either methods of doing it or efficient ways to go about that. We're thinking about a natural snow fence.
What's a natural snow? What's a natural snow?
So just like
I think it's a berm.
Yeah. So depends on where you come from, but what we're thinking is to have
Right
like
here.
some bushes and shrubs like at the beginning, and just build up like
3 layers.
Yeah, 3 layers. Build up the sizes, so it'll start off with little bushes and shrubs, and then medium, and then taller trees. We found that would be the best way.
Good idea.
So.
Great idea.
And we'll have the faster growing trees in front, so we can get that first defense up, and then the middle one will take a couple years to develop, and then the last one will be like our spruces and our.
And you have a plan
bigger
of keeping
trees.
the deer out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Just asking, because they'll be gone otherwise.
Yeah, it's a good point. And then we're just gonna keep increasing our cattle herd and our horses, and develop irrigation systems. We already kind of have, but just continue to put higher efficiency sprinkler systems in, and continue. We still have a couple more culverts we need to put in.
So do you guys have an animal husbandry class that's part of this when you're breeding the cattle?
We have animal science, so
Okay.
it's like the same thing. We learn all about everything from the anatomy of the animals, the diseases, anything that they can get, to you go out and you handle them. You go out and
how to breed them.
automatically inseminate a cow and
Do your own check.
Craig check them, and so yeah.
Very good.
Do the cows get slaughtered?
On our ranch, we are keeping most of them right now until we get a
Is there a
larger
plant, like-
herd to send them off. Yeah.
That is
So you
the
started
animal.
with how many cows?
0 until the community member.
How many were you increased them? So how many when the first year, how many did you
I
have?
think we had
We have like
2.
3,
I think we had 2
I
the
thought that's
first
what it
year.
was,
Yeah.
2, and now you're up to 7.
Now we're at 7.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So
That's awesome.
Terrific.
Next slide.
I think that's the last one.
So the Red Devil Ranch provides opportunities for over 150 Evanston High School students through agriculture education, FFA, and the special needs program. We appreciate all the support that has been given through our school board, district, and Evanston community.
So I'm going to look to our agricultural specialist here on the board. How they do, Keelan?
They're doing a good job.
Very, very good. Impressive, guys, actually.
So
Really
what's
impressive.
really cool too is our special needs kids are the ones that go out and feed the cows every day.
Oh, that's awesome.
And every once in a while I go out with them. And I drive them out in the Suburban and they know exactly what to do. And
Yeah.
they just get it all done.
Love it.
They know, and they just absolutely love it. It's probably one of their best parts of their day.
And the pictures up there right now were them feeding. Those are some of the special needs kids feeding, throwing the hay in. They get right in there. It's pretty cool.
So you guys keep all your own hay for feed in the winter, or do you sell any?
We
sell
sell
some.
probably, I think we sold 500, 600 bales this year.
Okay.
And then we kept around 1,000, I think.
Fantastic.
So are there other schools that have become interested in the program that you guys are doing and have wanted to know how you did it? And
When we were up at Fire Conference for FFA, I believe Ellis was talking to, I think it was the Lander advisor, and he was interested in like starting to do something like this just because he thought it was a good way to get him engaged, because a lot of the time classes are just, you know, in the classroom and it's all book work, but this gives us a chance to see what we're learning and then go out and practice it.
well, it involves a lot of the other tech classes too, so
Mm-hmm.
the well-being and.
Oh yeah, like it's bigger than just the country kids. It's,
Madam Chair, if I may, we had the League of Innovative Schools visit, and the reason why we had so many individuals visit isn't because we had a program like this, it was because we had a program like this with such a small school. So that's what's impressive, is how it was started from the ground up and how it's moving forward. But we had at least 50 individuals that wanted to see the Red Devil Ranch. That was the first thing they wanted to see on the way in town and the first thing they wanted to see on the way out. So
Really?
it's, word's out there, and like I said, it's a pretty impressive program, so nice work.
well, thank you.
What are you guys doing with like all the vegetables and stuff you're growing?
We eat them, yeah. So, the kids that come out and help hay, Ellis usually he'll go out whenever anything's ready, he'll just go and pick it and hand them to whatever kids who came out and helped. And last year I got some beets and they were actually really good. And I don't like beets, so they were really good.
How else do you grow yourself?
Yeah. So it's just like going from the beginning process to the end with range science, like you said, like you work from growing and starting your own gardens to the end process, you get to eat them. Animal science, he's treated us to some steak because you're working with cattle. That's been pretty nice, don't complain. So it's pretty cool just to watch it from the beginning to the end. And some kids already know about a lot of stuff, but you get to learn more and just, I don't know, there's different aspects that different people can contribute. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you for the
I've got a
report.
question for you. You're the FFA chapter president, right?
Yeah,
You ready for this?
I hope so.
Can you
Sure.
tell me what the FFA motto is?
Learning.
Learning to do, oh, that, okay. Yeah, there's lots of different.
There's four lines.
Learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve.
Very good. He thought he was going to
That's the
trip you
key
up.
to
Yeah.
That's the key to that whole program.
That
Because
is,
you guys learn by doing.
that is very true.
You really do. All of us do.
Yeah, and it's really cool because it's a hands-on class and that's,
It's very good.
I wish we could have these kind of labs for all our classes, you know? Yeah. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
That was impressive. In the middle of AP studying,
Yeah, no
pull something else out of her brain.
Smart kid.
Indeed. Okay, we are back to our discussion items, and we are talking about our meet and confer dates.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I've set two tentative dates, the 14th, which is next Tuesday, or Thursday, which is the 16th. I've met with the EEA group. They are good for either date. Typically, what we do is we have four board members, at least four board members on the negotiating group. We'll provide a dinner for the group. How negotiations is set up is basically a team of 8 and a team of 8. We usually don't have 8 on our side. 4 is the max because of the idea of a quorum, and so we don't need 4, but 4 is really kind of nice. So is anyone available to meet and confer next Tuesday or next Thursday?
Yeah, is anybody interested?
Time.
That's negotiable, but what we thought is 5:30 for dinner, and negotiations will start at 6.
I'm available Thursday, but not Tuesday. Anybody else interested?
Their date doesn't matter, I think, probably.
Okay, I've got Krista.
I could do Tuesday, but not Thursday.
So if they decide Tuesday is Cassie, if they decide Thursday,
It's up
me?
it's up to the board. They can do either day.
Okay.
So we decide.
Yes, you decide.
Krista, when can you go? Doesn't matter to me.
She can go any day. We got 2.
That's great, and we can see if Kay can come Thursday. Is that what you're looking?
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be either day, like I say,
Okay.
it depends on, yeah, I mean, if it's on the Tuesday, if everybody prefers Tuesday, then hopefully Cassie can go, and if they prefer Thursday, then I can go.
I could probably go, but I've got a wife that teaches, so I don't really like to get involved with meet and confer for that reason.
That's probably a good idea, actually, and probably Kay too. So,
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
I'm like tied up both of those nights, so.
And you've got cows.
We'll be starting turning out this next week in branding, so I don't know.
You want to come and join us? You laughed.
2 is golden, 4 would be gravy, so we'll take 2. You guys just need to, who's gonna, what
How
night?
passionate are you, Cassie, about doing it?
I've been on, I think, the last several, so, I
Okay.
mean, it's
See if
fine
Thursday
for
works,
me.
and then
Okay.
and then Krista and I can do it.
Okay.
If that really doesn't work,
If you
then
need me there.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
What time? That's okay.
5:30 for dinner, 6 to start.
Okay.
That
And
work?
Sherry will send us a reminder email?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we get to talk about our delayed start Monday poll results. I am very anxious to hear about this.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we had fantastic results to this, probably the best parent feedback we've had in any survey, so that's really good news. And our staff, this is the certified staff, we had 199 respond. Remember, when we talk about certified staff, we have 209 FTE.
So, wow, that's
So
incredibly high response then.
the FTE is basically part-time too, so it represents a very good turnout. We flat out ask them, if you can see, the blue represents they support delayed start at 56%. That is 111 that selected that. 18 is they preferred the 9 half-days. 17 is they preferred 3 full days, and then the 9% is other. Really what I hoped from this survey is we'd get some good suggestions about the other. We've tried the 9 half-days, we've tried the 3 full days. I would, as I interpret these results, again, it fits into need. How we set this up, and I'm going to give you access to all of this, we set it up in a way that our principals could use the information to help improve staff development. So we're going to get, I think we're going to get something out of this, which is improvement. I'm really tickled with the 56%. If you remember when we've done this in the past, and Krista probably remembers when we had the 9 half-days when they were on Wednesday, we only had about 150 parents that responded, and they were not very supportive. So to have 55% of our staff as state that this is something that they would like to continue is very impressive. The other groups, we need to go through the comments. The principals will go through the comments and see what we can do to make improvements. And I'm going to show you the exact survey to help you as you navigate through it, and how you can get to it, and how you can take information from it. This one is a compilation of all the schools, okay? The next one is support staff. We didn't get quite a turnout for support staff, but part of that is due that the delayed start Mondays are typically for certified staff. So you can see that 52% of our support staff support the delayed start Mondays, where 35% would rather have the 9 half-days. The interesting thing about that is, remember, support staff do not work on the 9 half-days. So I guess that's the message. I can tell you that I did appreciate all the comments. And you guys will appreciate them too. You'll have one comment that says, "This is the greatest thing we've ever done." And then right below it, "This is the worst thing we've ever done." It's all based on really personal preference, family situation. And I'll show you one of the questions that asked is, do you not like delayed start Mondays because it adversely affects the staff development, the quality of staff development? And it's obvious that's not the driver in this. The driver is it's an inconvenience for families, which we knew from the start. And I'll get to those. I'm kind of ahead of myself. So this is the support staff. You can see, again, I was hoping that we'd get some good suggestions for others, but not that we've exhausted all options, but we've tried a lot.
The one suggestion, the only suggestion I got was, we like having it once a week. Can we have early out Mondays instead of early start Mondays?
Yeah, and those were comments back and forth. You had a bunch. Some would like to try it on a different day. Some would like to move it to Fridays. Again, one thing that the unintended consequence, and I believe it was intended for me, is we got our Fridays back. And next year, as you look, if we did this again, there are, I think I told you, 40 Fridays in the calendar next year. 5 of them are holidays, and the other 5 that we kind of cut into, the other are half-days for end of the semester. So 9 days out of those 40 are what we disrupt. That's a positive thing. The attendance on Fridays is improved. And again, all these comments the principals are going to look at and you guys can look at, but you could kind of have an argument, probably for all of them, support for all of them. Why the morning works better is because we don't lose our sponsors. If you do anything in the afternoon, you lose our sponsors. We've already seen that if you do even a half day, sometimes you lose the entire day because parents keep their kids out for the whole day, not an hour. The reason why I would say Mondays work is because it's consistent every day of the week. We did get comments that it's disruptive, but you guys have heard from, I think, 3 schools now that said the behavior's improved. So part of that is, again, maybe their assignment. They've seen it differently. Special need kids respond differently, and that's in there. Our specialists lose time, but they also lost time when we had half days. So there's a balancing act here. I think the important thing is to realize is this was the first year we tried this, and to have that percentage of staff in support is pretty amazing. Typically we get about a third, and a third. A third like what we're doing, a third don't really care, and a third don't like what we're doing. So this is an improvement. The next one, which I think is very telling, is the parents. We had 839 parents respond.
Wow.
That is impressive. We've never had over 300, I think. And so I think this is telling for our principals who encourage their parents. We actually sent it to their emails. We did a refresher on Friday, and this is what turns out. So what you can see, and I'll start here with this one. So this starts at the top and then goes clockwise. So the first one is flat out, I support delayed start Mondays. The next one is I prefer delayed start Mondays to the 9 half days. So really these two are I prefer the delayed start Mondays. So that's 48% of our parents right off the bat. The gray represents, though, that support the delayed start Mondays, but they kind of preferred the 9 half days. So you could even consider that as a positive response to the delayed start Mondays, is they understand there's a need for it, but they like the half days better. And as you look at the comments, you can see why. Some actually came flat out and said, I like getting my kids once a month, Fridays, we could do something, especially linked to the holidays. It's probably the exact reason why our staff didn't like it, because it was linked to the holidays. So the 145 or 17% are those who do not support delayed start Mondays because they're an inconvenience to them or to their students or families in general. This is what I was talking about. The 9 that responded, or the 1%, do not support delayed start Mondays because it adversely affects staff development. Again, as you think about that as a parent, it's really our responsibility to provide a quality staff development to the staff. It's not the parents.
Right.
And they may not see exactly how important that is, or exactly that it's a requirement that we provide staff development. So it makes sense that that got a low response. 127 responded. I'd rather do the 9 half days. Do not like and there's a lot of different reasons why, and I wouldn't say any of them are not valid because everyone has a different need in their home. Again, this represents all levels too. So when we originally did this, we broke it out by school, so the principals can see at their specific school how their parents responded, which will help them as they move forward, communicating with parents, communicating with staff, and I'm going to show you that. Then the last category was other opinions. There's not a lot of other options presented. There are options that we have tried, and you've already mentioned them. Let's do it on a different day of the week. Let's do an early out. Let's go back to the Fridays, and for various reasons. And again, I guess there's no really one reason, but that's what the results turned out like. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
So remember that PD meeting I came to and listened to when you guys came and spoke? One of the teachers came to me afterwards, and I don't know that it would be a very favorable thing amongst the teachers, but she suggested that you don't delay start at all, you do the PD earlier on Monday morning, or whatever morning you choose.
Like coming in earlier.
Right, so that the teachers have to be there, 30 minutes earlier than you even have them now, and then the kids don't get disrupted at all. I don't know if that's an option, but I was
definitely an
surprised that it
option.
was a teacher that suggested it.
And how we structure that is right now, the teachers add a half hour of contract time. So that's the only amount of time that we've added to their contract day, or the length of the day. So that suggestion would add either an hour or an hour and a half. Elementary, it works, but secondary is challenging, because right now our secondary have to get there at 7 right now, 7:10. So if we went earlier, that would be
And I don't know
a challenge.
anybody that functions well at 6 in the morning.
I know there's a few people that love mornings, but...
Well, it's not me.
Yeah.
I just
and
thought
so
it was
you could do
interesting
it.
coming from one of the teachers there.
Yeah, and like I said, we could kind of try anything, we could do anything, but I think the staff would not be favorable to earlier. If anything, that was, I think, one of the discussions that we had when we went to this last year is, I'm not a morning person, and so I'm not going to like this. I'd rather do it in the afternoon, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know one of the things we really struggled with, Ryan, was, the school's becoming daycare for a couple of hours on Mondays. I mean, we have that issue in the after-school program as well, but, for those Mondays, I don't know if that has continued to be a problem in the comments or not.
Well, yes, the support staff, again, still 52% supported it, but those who didn't basically said, I don't like being daycare. But my response to that would be, you're providing supervision and you're being paid. It's not daycare, it's an accommodation for parents. And again, you guys have seen from 3 schools where the number of students coming at the same time is not that great. Okay. Those that come for early birds, it is an hour longer. So I can see that there's some potential there. But that's why I see that this is such an opportunity, is for the principals to look, for the district to look what we can do to improve that. Again, remember, this is the first year this was done, and to have that kind of response from parents is extraordinary.
And I'm going to be curious to when do we get the whiteout scores, and are we going to see a difference in those scores based upon what we've done with the teachers?
Whiteout in August.
So whiteout in August. I mean, for me, again, because I think I've shared my personal experience with my daughter and what a difference it's made with her teachers and her math.
Yeah.
I'd be really curious to see where we are in terms of whiteout.
And I would love to be able to say most definitely. And the challenge with that is there's so many variables involved.
Right.
And as we look at individual schools, now we actually have data to look at individual schools, how the staff feel about staff development, how their kids did or didn't do. It's interesting. We get some preliminary results. We see positives, we see negatives. To be able to explain why, there's just so many variables involved. I can tell you, and you've probably heard, that the test this year has been grueling, longer than anticipated, even for us and even for the state. Our kids and our staff, I think, again, have performed admirably, but it is a huge disruption. I'm pretty sure the high school right now would come and say it's a huge distraction for 2 weeks. It ruins the schedule, and kids don't do well if it's not a consistent schedule with, but anyway, so it's been a tough couple weeks. But those aren't our options. These are dictated to us by the state. We can give them feedback, and trust me, we will, but we don't have a lot of choice in how we do those or when we do them, I guess. So, moving on, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I'm going to give you access to every one of these surveys, and this is what it'll look like when you call it up. And notice there's a section that says responses. So this is Aspen. You can see that they had 35 responses. So to get to the results, you just click on responses and it switches to this screen. Now, you won't see any of the email addresses because for our staff, we told them we were not going to collect them, so we didn't. So you'll just have, it's kind of interesting, this was Aspen's, and not everyone realized they were at Aspen. That's another part of the survey. So your first choice is where you work. The second choice is if you're certified or support. So you get to this screen. If you're certified, it sends you to an entire another survey. If you're support, it sends you to another survey. So we could separate certified from support so the principals could look at concerns from both groups. So it will be a little confusing, especially compared to the single chart I gave you. So this one is my opinion on professional development is certified. And you can see where they had 57% say they were in support, and you can see the other options that were there. The second one, which looks very similar, is the support, classified. And you can see that there's not quite as much support for that, but again, you're talking 3 individuals, 4 individuals, and 2 individuals. So you can just hover over it and it'll tell you the numbers. Then it gets a little more confusing. We not only asked them why, we allowed them, if they selected one, they could go to an area and leave comments. So as you go down, the next one will say, these are comments classified. So these are comments of individuals that was supportive of delayed start. And you can see that as you go through them. The next one would be the support comments. So notice you didn't get quite as many support comments. And the comment we received is pretty good. We agree. So then the next one is the second question, and why they selected it. That's probably the most telling for our principals. So of the 4 people that responded to they'd rather have the 9 half-days, they believe that the delayed start Mondays are a disruption to the schedule, time and specials. So the individuals felt that way. Or 25%, they'd like to try something extra, or something different. I wish they'd have given us some suggestions. That's the frustrating part. They didn't give us suggestions. We just want to try something different, which I guess is okay. So then 2B, we allowed them to comment on their selection. So then you can see comments and concerns classified. So the classified, interesting. They all had their own reasons why they liked it or didn't like it. This is why they preferred the 9 half-days. Again, it's one person, each response. So a little different when you look at the individual schools. By the way, I hope Aspen doesn't mind me doing this, but you can see that this is the third question, why they didn't like it. And this one's purple. They had other reasons, but there's only 2, 1, and 1. So you can go through all those comments. When you get to the bigger schools, of course, there's more comments. And also the parents, you have all the comments of the parents. So I'll send these to you in a link. To print this off would have been massive.
No,
so
it's fine.
Hopefully you can see, like I said, you'll have every comment from every school. I've shared these with the principals. They'll be given to the principals to start working with their staff. So that's what you'll get. So there's 9 surveys that deal with 8 schools and central office, and then there's 1 parent survey that you'll see. If you need some help, just give me a call. Again, very pleased with the results. The recommendation next month will be that we continue with delayed start Mondays. the reason for that recommendation, of course, is the results that we have, but we have 8 principals that would tell you they believe it's important that we continue this work using delayed start Mondays as a format. So they're 100% behind it. Like I said, each building is a little different in how their staff responded. I think they'll learn a great deal from these surveys as they move forward. We'll work on making improvements, and then I think we come back next year and ask again.
Ask again.
So, yeah.
Well, a couple of concerns I have with the late start. And I know it's a management issue, but the late start also causes a lot of staff not to show up on time. And so you're wasting time. I hear that happens, and there's not a whole lot of policing going on there. And the other thing we could do, I know this opened up a different can of worms, I'd like to see a 4-day week and Friday off altogether.
You don't like chewing on big issues at all, do
No,
you, Dave?
I want to open up things and make a little wave. I mean, somebody said, what else do we do? I mean, I know Rock Springs talked about it and almost passed it.
So if you talk about a wave, they spent 3 months focusing on that. It's more than a wave. That's the challenge. I guess my position, and you know, David, is we don't need less instructional time, we need more. And how we get that is one of the reasons why we went to this, is to provide more instructional time. If you look at the districts that do it, some are very successful, but they're nowhere near the size of districts we are. We have 700 kids in the high school. Typically, the districts that do it have less than 700 kids in their whole district. So we're talking about...
all 1A, 2A, 3A
yes.
schools. I know that.
So you're talking about 1,100
but it's coming.
Kids that now 1 day a week, you need to find some way to take care of them.
I was going to say,
every Friday.
if we had beef about just an hour on Mondays, imagine what we're going to get for an entire day.
What I was hoping, David, is that Rock Springs would have passed it, and then we could have watched. And we could have got a result of a school that's bigger than us, but at least to see how it impacted them. Because right now, we can't do all of our activities on Friday. It's impossible. So you're still going to cut into the evenings. We don't have multiple gyms at the high school, so extending the day puts those kids later in the night if you have to split a gym. Yeah. So there's so much involved in that. And I think what happens is it sounds good on the surface. When you start digging into it, you realize that there's a great deal more involved. The teachers do not have Friday off. And the kids typically do not have Fridays off. That's when we do interventions. The challenge I see is right now we can't get kids that need interventions to school on Friday anyway. And if their buddies are off, they're not going to show up. Again, I don't mean to get onto that 4-day school week, but it is, we've had enough distractions with other things. I want to just focus on educating kids. But
there's an issue on tardiness.
You'll see that, and I agree.
You know, I don't care what you're talking about. When you're talking about early morning, getting people there on time to use the time effectively, I don't know how that's being managed.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, is that's up to each principal, I'm assuming, to make sure that their teachers are showing up when they're supposed to show up and participating in whatever is being offered.
Remember, this is contract time, and they're being paid for it.
Right.
It is the principal's responsibility to track that. Again, our teachers have lives. We understand that once in a while something will pop up and you may be late, but if it's consistently, the principals need to take action, and I'm sure they're listening. Also, you need to realize there are staff that responded to that in the comments. Again, that's why I think this is going to be so powerful to the principals. They're going to see that their own staff is saying it's not fair that these individuals don't show up consistently.
Good.
Individual principals will get that feedback. So that's the strength of, I think, how we set it up. Could have been a lot easier, but the data wouldn't have been able to help our principals improve. So now we can.
Can these pie charts be available to the staff to see?
You bet.
And the
actually, what I was going to try to do, I don't know if you saw my little podcast on insurance, but I'll probably try to do something similar with this.
Your what?
A podcast?
You did a podcast?
Yeah.
A podcast?
It's kind of embarrassing, but...
I mean, we definitely want to make the pie charts available, and whether we give those, to Sheila or whomever, and, put them on the front page of our webpage. I think, again, as we adopt a schedule for the school year as we adopt our schedule and we're looking at all this, I'm assuming that this will be on next month for a decision, a final decision.
Yeah, there's a
on what we want to do.
recommendation, well, there's actually a spot on the June board meeting for the board to approve this. It's not, I guess, typical or necessary. We did it last year because it was new. I think it's wise we do it again, because the message, we have individuals, unfortunately, that fight everything we try. If the message is this is board approved, it's contract time, you're being paid for it, you need to show up and hopefully participate. Now remember, I'm talking about a very small percentage, but a very small percentage impacts everyone's instruction. So I think it's the right message. I can tell you right now the recommendation will be to keep it. I've already talked to the principals. They'll be part of the recommendation next month. They stand before you and express their position, but they're in favor of it too. Next year, we will be working on level 2 of high reliability schools, which is teacher. Yes, thank you. Effective instruction in every classroom. We'll need that time.
Okay.
Okay?
And if the principals are going to recommend it to us, I'm assuming that they're going to work hard on herding their own cats and making it work in their own schools.
Yes.
Okay. Next. So next on the agenda is the computer time, and this one actually...
You're on draft.
Oh, no, never mind. I'm on Ryan's evaluation, and you're right.
Okay.
So this is the leader evaluations. It is time to do this. We talked about this a few months ago in terms of which one to adopt.
Madam Chair, members of the board, just kind of a brief history. If you remember, 2 things is the evaluation we currently use is tied to our policy governance. It was not well-liked by some members of the board, and so even as we talked about it last year, we knew that the state added to Chapter 29 requirements for superintendents, just not superintendents. This is the leader evaluation. So we needed, as part of this plan, is to identify who would be under this evaluation. I'm proposing that it's me and the 2 assistant superintendents. So there's a part of this, and you have it, that starts, I think, on page 3 and goes to page 9.
Right.
That is the actual Wyoming standards and benchmarks. So those weren't developed by me, those were approved by the Wyoming Board of Education. So we have no flexibility with those, since we chose to go with this type of
We
evaluation.
chose to do something that they had already approved.
Yes.
Right.
What we have flexibility in are these first 2 pages, and so I'm going to go through really quickly. I'm not going to read to you. The purpose of the evaluation is really a combination of all the stuff we've always done and what we believe. So this is the part that, as you go through it, if it's not something you want on there, we'll modify it next month. The desired outcomes, hopefully those are the desired outcomes we see, and then the Wyoming standards are listed. So those are the standards, and each standard has a series of benchmarks. One of the comments I remember last year is it was confusing what we were asking in the evaluation. This doesn't make it any less confusing. Matter of fact, they use a lot of education-ese. There's going to be a lot of, I think, clarification and discussion about what the benchmarks mean. It's not an easy evaluation system. So what I've tried to do is hopefully ease that by the instructions.
Okay.
Leaders are to be evaluated annually in June. Again, we had to identify how often they'd be evaluated. Once a year, I think, is plenty. I hope you guys agree. June makes sense because it's after the school year,
Right.
and we can review where we are. Unfortunately, what we won't have is student data. We won't get that until the fall,
Right.
but that's always shared with you. The leader is to conduct a self-evaluation that will include a concise written review of each standard and the evidence reflecting the rating provided. The evaluation summary will include a review of achievements, strengths, growth opportunities, and performance goals. I guess what I see is this is the leader putting out why they believe they should get what they get, bottom
Right, so
line.
you do a self-evaluation
Yes.
based on the criteria, score yourself, we score you,
Yeah.
and then we sort of figure
Yes.
out where we are.
So, again, I guess the self-evaluation is to prime the pump to give you information that I believe hits the criteria or doesn't hit the criteria. The whole point of this is that the board and the superintendent works together to define the roles of the superintendent, what's going well, what's not going well, and hopefully to establish moving forward what the superintendent needs to focus on. We talk about those as board goals now, but in terms of our policy governance, and that's pretty clear, but if I ask each of you, what do you believe my expectations are, I think they'd be a little different, so anyway.
And then you put the rating scale in there, because we had talked about,
Yes.
3 means you're doing your job.
Yep.
If you're below expectations, you get a 1 or a 2, and we explain why. If you're above, then we give you a 4 or 5 and
And
explain why.
I'm getting to that. That was the second part that we had to define, and it's part 2. But the other part is annual evaluation will be signed by the board chairman, so you'll sign mine. I'll sign the assistant superintendent's, and I get a copy goes in my file. So I guess just to clarify where it goes and how it's done, this part of the system itself, evaluation should be completed by July 1st annually. Again, a timeline was required in the Chapter 29 rules. Why is that going that way? Let's see. So this is the rating you were talking about. We've always had a 4 rubric. Well, we've gone to a 5. Bottom line, 3 is meeting expectations. 4 and 5 would be exceeding those expectations. Number 1 is needs of improvement. Again, all of this, you can change the language. Needs of improvement, benchmark not addressed, or totally lacking in evidence and/or observable growth. So that's the rubric, what needs improvement means. A little different, something that we have never done but is required in the leader's evaluation, is the expectation check. This is the summative part of the evaluation. Is the superintendent meeting expectations or not meeting expectations? It goes without saying, if you're not meeting expectations, there'd be either an improvement plan, goals, not a contract, however you want to talk about it. But, so a little different, and the board will discuss the individual ratings and reach consensus on a summative rating, including the expectation check. So just as you said, the leader will do a self-evaluation. All of the board members evaluate every benchmark. You'll get together as a group. You'll come to consensus on the benchmarks and the standards, and then a expectation check is what they call it.
And a consensus score, and then we meet with you and tell you why.
Yes. So if you look at it, and I'll get to that too, the A through H are the benchmarks. So you would rate those 1 to 5. And then the overall rating is a tally of those 1 through 5. Right now, I don't have it in a document where you can type right on this, but by June 4th, I'll have this on a document where you can just do all your typing on here. So you can collect whatever score. The overall rating will just be a sum of the ones above. The comments, you can put whatever comments based on the benchmarks or the standard itself. But as you go through those, you can see that there's a lot of education, language, and ease, and what does that mean?
Well, it's still better than what we had, so.
Yes. There's a lot
So we'll
there.
stumble through it, but it's still better than what we had.
I don't know, looking at it, I'm not sure it is.
And so you can see that there are 7 standards, so each standard has a benchmark, and then as you come down to the end, again, this is the evaluation summary, so this is where I would list the achievements. You could list achievements if you saw some areas of strength, opportunities for growth, and then the goal-setting part. Hopefully, if we do this right, we'll have the board goals already established by July 1st. So we'll have the walking, and then just a signature page. But that is the new leader evaluation. Any questions, comments, concerns? This is draft, we'll approve it and use it next month.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll approve it at the board meeting next month, and then we'll have to set aside a different time before July 1st to sort of
We could, or
actually
the
do
way
it.
I schedule it is you just have an executive session that night to work on it. What's interesting, remember that this year you don't have to use this tool. Might as well try it.
We're going to try it, yeah.
So within a couple of weeks, I'll actually send this to you. If you have changes, you can either talk to Jamie or talk to me, and we'll make changes. I haven't shown this to the assistant superintendents. Well, I did, but about 3 hours ago. So they may want to have...
memorized, right?
Yeah, they may want to have some input on this, too. But But again, the whole purpose of an evaluation is help you improve. With the board and the superintendent is to improve communications, strengthen our relationships, and
To
hopefully
make sure that we know
common
what each
direction.
other's expectations are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're going to send out a form we can fill
Type
out?
on.
So, yeah, what I would ask
Or a hard
is-
copy, whatever you want.
Yeah, so that Ryan will send it to us. You can either print it or you can do it electronically. Send your results to me, and then we'll all get together and sort of consensus, figure out what the numbers are. And then we'll meet with Ryan. Is that
So-
fair?
And the reason why, again, I understand that it won't be approved until, the tool won't be approved until
Right.
next month, but it's not necessary that you use it this year. You can, if you want, so like I said, you might as well practice with it. See
But
what you-
I'd rather use this than the one we did last year.
I figure
so-
you guys would.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I agree.
So you can send out a hard copy?
Yep. Okay.
Me and Kay need a hard
Okay. The other thing, Chairman Brackett, if you want, is you can send them to Sherry to collect, whatever's easier for you.
I think I'd rather have them sent to me.
Sounds good.
And then as we collect that together and then sit down as a board to come up with sort of consensus, we can see sort of what the comments are and where we are.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Now, we're moving on, right? Okay, the computer time for K-5. This is actually a result of Jaren's presentation last month. He talked about the, whatever it was, the innovative school.
I can talk about it. So this is actually, are you gonna do something?
Yeah, what I thought we'd do is I actually can invite the elementary principals up too to respond to your questions.
We heard a lot of comments about third graders getting computers and about too much screen time for kids, and we want to talk about that, so.
And I think the best people to respond to that would be our elementary principals and Dr. Ingalls. Before I get there, just so you know, Jaren would love to have been here to help respond to this, but he is actually with the School Facilities Commission trying to get us $850,000 for a new roof at EMS. We'll find out tomorrow if we get that or not. Principal Dastrup is actually doing interviews for positions he has available, so he's not with us either.
Principal Peterson is as well.
Oh, Principal, they're both interviewing.
Okay.
So just to kind of set up the question. The question was about screen time in third grade and expectations. What the principals can respond to is, first of all, you guys will realize that the basket of goods contained 9 content areas until this year. Now it contains 10. The 10th one is computer science. We have until 2023 to have all of the standards in place. There's a ton of them. It will increase the amount of screen time for kids significantly. That is not our choice. That was dictated by the state. So they can answer that. The other thing that Jaren, I think, he was talking about in terms of the technology purchase was the possibility of going one-to-one. They'll explain where we are with that right now. But I think the big question you have is how much screen time does a typical third grader have and why? I think that's the big
Well, and I
question.
know that there were questions, I know Tammy had some questions about whatever the program is that Jaren does, the innovation, what was it called?
League of Innovative Schools.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, or I don't know that, I mean, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can answer that, and then I'll turn the time
Well,
over
and
to
I
these
know
guys.
Tammy had some questions too, so I don't know if you want to ask her to ask questions before they respond, or you want to talk about sort of screen time and what you've got. I mean, do the third graders have computers, each have a computer now?
Yes,
They already do?
yes. All third graders in the entire district have computers. They don't take them home, but the computers are there and they're assigned to individual
So they're
students.
Chromebooks?
Chromebooks.
Okay.
What is the,
They stay at school.
what is
Yes.
like the final goal as far as the one-to-one Chromebook, or the one-to-one?
You mean down the road,
Yeah.
like kindergarten
Yes.
with a one-to-one and that piece?
What is our end goal?
Initially, we wanted to give kids a lot of exposure, especially with YTOP, because otherwise you've got a kindergarten student who is getting on a computer and they're going through that assessment and they're being assessed on a computer. If they never have any time on the computer, that becomes a factor more than the learning that they're doing. And so that was a part of that, and, but next year, the law that was requiring that, and I'll talk a little about that in my presentation, but the law that was requiring that is really what, it had to do a lot with dyslexia. That particular law has been revised, and we'll talk a little about that going forward. So we then are given options of that assessment with our kindergarten first and second. Kindergarten was assessed only in the spring. One and two then had a fall and spring as well. So that's where we were at with that. And trying to give them some exposure is one of the goals. Another one is to give them some digital options that were utilized as interventions or extensions. And so that in and of itself is a goal as well, with some of the digital tools that we have available.
So what's the goal for one-to-one? Is it the entire you want it K-12, or what is the end goal?
At this point in time, there hasn't been a plan to have that K-12. At this point, third grade is a level. I'm not aware of an ultimate goal from this office that we have at kindergarten through, but I think right now we have a lot of devices, and I think we're probably pretty close to having that number of devices for our kiddos already.
So when did the third graders get one-to-one?
I can let you guys speak to that. I think they've been building over time, and really we didn't call it a one-to-one. We just had enough devices that we allowed the kindergartners or the third graders, excuse me, to have those. And those have been purchased over time.
Classroom set.
Yeah. For a while, when I first arrived, we had a grade level cart. And that grade level cart went from classroom to classroom. And the challenge was that you had more than one classroom wanting to utilize that, and it became a real challenge. So it had been the goal all along to try and get as many devices as we could to give kids opportunity. I can tell you, as far as screen time, this year with CKLA, what you will see is that screen time for ELA, almost none, just because CKLA is so intense and requires most of that literacy block time where you're not going to see them on the computers very often. Core Knowledge Language Arts, that's our ELA.
The reading and English.
Yeah.
Writing.
Sorry, Dave, we'll talk about that here in a minute. I'm sorry. Core Knowledge Language Arts, which is our resource that we adopted.
So that was really a question that certainly we're getting, was how much screen time are the third, fourth, and fifth graders actually getting? Is it one of those things that now the teachers are just sticking them in front of a computer all day?
I'll let the principals address that.
Just like Dr. Ingalls suggested, our teachers are working very hard with our new adopted ELA program, English Language Arts program. And so there is very little time for screen time. If screen time does take place, it's usually within like a rotation, which doesn't last longer than 20 minutes. And could be daily or not, depending on what the students need. So it varies depending on grade level and classrooms and content area.
And I know that we had talked before about the need to get the kids used to computers because of the white top being on a computer. And we don't know how that worked out yet, but
It's, again, we'll find out. We have some preliminary results. We have some areas of glory and some areas where we go.
What grade is the white top offered?
White top is third. The summative assessment is third through, 3 through 10.
But it's the third grades when they start getting it.
Yeah.
But they take it in kindergarten first.
There's an interim assessment that they have now, K through 2.
So why is Jaron saying that we're pushing one-to-one to third grade next year? If it's already, wouldn't you know that?
I'm not sure for the use of that language. I think at this point, it was probably to make sure that we had devices available for our third grade students, but it's different than what we're doing for our fourth grade. In my conversations with the principals today and the last couple of days, just trying to get an idea and answer some questions, it became obvious to me that we already have that situation.
So we've taken some of the computers that we've had passed down that may have been in computer sets, and we've said, okay, so we'll go ahead and put them in these classrooms. For North, because we've have a smaller group of third graders this year, that number we were able to go one-to-one, as well as we're even down into second grade. Most of those kids have a computer that they get on and log into that computer every day. Not that we went out and purchased those specifically for those kids, but it was computers that have been left over from other computer sets, and so they have those. Right now, first grade, they have some iPads, they have some old Mac laptops that have been passed down from wherever, and they have not quite one-to-one, but it's pretty close, and then kindergarten has 8 to 9 iPads in each of their classrooms as well. So that's kind of how it plays out at North. You asked about the screen time for the kids. I can tell you right now, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, with the ELA program being so intense, the screen time is very minimal. Like Mrs. Fessler said, the only time they would necessarily have screen time is when the students are maybe doing, maybe that's part of a rotation they do during an intervention piece of it, or they may get on it and work on a writing piece. But it's not just sitting in front of the computer. Part of like for 3rd grade, they had to do a research on an inventor, and they wrote up a newspaper article. That was the assignment from it. Wrote up the newspaper article, they put in a picture, and they printed that out. But it's kind of a hit and miss. Some days it's just writing in the activity book that they have as part of the lesson. The other days it might be getting on the computer and writing that piece of it. I do know that 3rd, 4th, and 5th also practiced the white top modules, kind of giving the kids an idea. One, it is to get used to the program, some of the tasks that they're asked to do to manipulate the program, creating graphs for the white top. They practice those, as well as kind of a check-in to see, oh, 3rd grade, you're working on multiplications, or you're working on this geometry. Let's see where you are with this module. So kids can get on and practice that as well, and teachers can use that information to get a sense of where the kids are being ready for the white top. So they have that chance to get on and use it for that as well. But as far as screen time daily, it's unless if that's part of their intervention group, if there's not enough human people to help with those intervention groups in the grade levels, they may be on a computer for 20 minutes doing IXL in math or IXL in reading, or a different program that is helping them build their skills.
In terms of...
Quick, sorry.
Go ahead, Russell.
Hey, just one thing that I'm listening to, I hear minimal a lot, but minimal could mean something a lot different to me, and it might mean something different to you. It'd be great if we could track these screen times and really get a grasp for how much time these kids are spending with their facing on screen currently, and then maybe we could look at what their testing scores are in relation to how much screen time they have. Maybe screen time is benefit, maybe it's not, but it'd be great if we had something a little bit more solid than just minimal for a time.
Okay.
I was going to say, I think there's always a balance. I mean, it's one of those things that we need our kids to be computer savvy and to have the skills that they need, and especially if the state is dictating that they have a certain skill set versus, zombies in front of a screen.
You talk about the variability in these tests. That's one thing that worries me more than anything else, and it always has in these tests. If you're a poor reader and the math question is a story problem, you're going to struggle to get the math question correct. Now we've added another variable, is if you're a poor reader and your computer skills are lacking, I don't think we're going to get a good result on where that student is in terms of their academic performance. That's the challenge. And I do, again, just my opinion, if we have a teacher that's just putting kids on a computer, that's not the expectation. The expectation is, just as you said, is a blended learning. Use the tools that we can provide. I think the biggest purpose of technology is to help fill in the gaps. in these classrooms that have multi-abilities. So one person could be at one point, and another student can be at a different point, and they could still be learning and moving forward. These aren't tools that teachers say keep out of the classroom. They are tools that say we'd like them in the classroom. The idea of, I guess, a technology approach, our position in Digital Promises League of Innovative Schools, the league does not dictate anything to us in terms of what we do and how we do it. They're a resource that we can see what else is going on in the nation. We see things we don't like, we see things we like. I say right now, we're more of a resource, because of what we do in a small rural community. People are looking to us and trying to figure out, how did we get to the one-to-one where we are? Because we've put resources into it. Jaren's discussion, the technology purchase, the majority of those Chromebooks that are to be purchased are replacement Chromebooks. Every 3 years you get a new Chromebook, so we have to continue that replacement. He's not here to explain exactly what his comment was about the one-to-one, the third grade. I think more than anything else is, and I think Russell's comment's perfect, as we move forward in this, we're going to have to respond better informed with the research dealing with screen time, but then what is this new computer science curriculum going to do to screen time? We're trying to embed that in our media and computer classes, so we don't take away from instruction. Yes.
And what's minimal?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge that we have till 2023. I guess we're fortunate in this district to have resources and tools. That's not going to be the issue. You guys realize that technology is a black hole.
Well, and I know that you guys struggled a few years back with getting, adequate recess time as well in elementary school, and hopefully you're getting that.
It's written.
Minimal or adequate?
Adequate, Brian, adequate recess time, not minimal.
That was a joke.
The minimum that was set was the 1:15-minute recess in the morning and then the 45-minute lunch period.
And that's
consistent across
the
district.
schools.
Yes.
So all parents should be able to know their kids are getting that.
Because that was, that's one of the things, is, are they sitting and doing computers the whole time? Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the other part. If they're sitting and doing computers and it's for enjoyment, that's not our expectation. These are tools for instruction. So that's, again, part of the principal's job, is to see if they are abusing it, we need to know, and we need to take action. Again, we're actually pretty good bosses. We would just kind of work with them. But if I thought my kid was just looking through the internet and not doing something instructional, I'd be pretty upset, because they could do that at another time.
Well, and I don't, Kimber, I cut you off because you had something to say, but let me jump in. One of my frustrations as a parent with one of my children, who had ADHD and some other issues, was that damn Chromebook was the death of me and the death of him, and it was awful. And every time I tried to say, no, can you please give him paper and not a Chromebook, it sort of went nowhere. And I want to make sure that parents who really have children that's a hindrance and not a help, have other alternatives, and are we addressing that?
Yeah, so, and I can only speak for Clark, but I know that it's probably similar. I don't know for sure, but there is the option, we give parents the option, do you want them to bring it home or do you not want them to bring it home? And parents tell the teachers that, they communicate that, and then we follow up with that.
You don't give that option in third grade, though, I hope?
No, they don't take them home until fourth grade.
So
They have the option to take them home in fourth grade, yeah.
And at North, they don't take them home in fourth grade.
So at your school, they don't take them home until, or have the option until when, fifth?
Until fifth grade. And that's about halfway through the school year.
So and that's interesting to know as well, to see if that's different, different in
And that's a
different
teacher
schools.
choice.
Yeah.
Given that the option of the teachers and the school, it hasn't been something that we set from the districts that they'll absolutely do this. Giving them that professional opportunity to make that decision, and the kids that they know. And some schools have felt like they'd like to give that responsibilities, and others have said, we're not ready for them to have that yet.
So my understanding before Jaren said that was that our one-to-one initiative was at fourth grade. and that he was wanting to move it to third grade. I didn't realize that third graders already had the one-to-one Chromebooks. I don't think the parents know that. So I think that should be communicated at the beginning of this school year. But my concern, and it's really irrelevant now, is that, I mean, there's this large and growing body of research saying that kids are getting more than the recommended time at home, and all we can control is what happens at schools. And so I was going to ask that we reconsider the one-to-one in third grade, but if it's already there, I don't know that there's anything that we can do about that, so.
I would like to say, though, that we have a very dedicated, committed teaching staff, and they will not just use Chromebooks or any kind of electronics just for the sake of using it. I mean, with the amount of time that we have to ensure that all of our students are learning at high levels, they're using every single minute intentionally. And if there's a better way than reflex for math, for math facts, and they're going to do that. So I think you can count on that our teachers are not just putting kids in front of screens because they have them. I mean, they're being very intentional about the use.
I don't think that at all. Like, I've been a room parent, like, I've been in charge of iPads for a year, you know, like, I know that they're learning. I know that you guys collect a lot of data from that stuff, and I'm not suggesting that it's not effective or anything. I'm just, from where I stand, the screen time concerns are, I mean, they're multifactorial, and they have long-term negative effects. So I was going to say, if there's anything we can do to not increase that time.
Or at least balance what we need for YTOP.
Yeah.
With, you know.
And some of the programs that we use, for example, the Reflex, really is well-researched as far as the development of math facts through multimodal modalities. Kids are picking that up. Neuroscience has gone into developing. Now, it's coming at them quick. It's almost like video game-like, but it really embeds itself. We also noticed that with some of those kids, transferring that becomes a challenge. So the teacher then needs to make sure and give opportunities off of that particular program to make sure that the kids are applying that as well.
Sure.
I can tell you that I'm in the schools a lot, I'm in classrooms a lot, and I don't see kids on Chromebooks that often. Now, maybe my focus this year has been on ELA, and I just, because I'm there during the ELA time a lot, I'm not seeing that. In math, I know that our math time, when I go in, those kids are pretty much doing math. They're doing a lot of collaborative and cooperative things. They may do a small rotation that includes maybe a reflex math piece or an IXL to build some skills, but I just haven't seen a lot of that. Your concern is appreciated, and know that. It's a concern that we all have. I have grandchildren that I'm concerned about how much screen time I can control when they're at Grandpa's house, but I can't control any place else. However, we can provide them with the best educational opportunity at school, and hopefully we're doing that. I know the teachers are real conscientious of it, as you've already pointed out, as both the principals have pointed out as well.
Sure. I had a parent come to me who was putting a kindergartner in school, and she also has an older child in school, and she said, they just lectured me about not putting my kids on screens and giving them opportunities to use scissors and glue and work with paint and Play-Doh and teaching them to be creative and use those fine motor skills and develop them. And she says that it feels like we've done the opposite as far as what we're encouraging them to do with a kindergartner coming in, and then we don't provide the art program, and we do
provide
push
computers.
Screens. Yeah, so I didn't have any answers for her. I said, you're correct. You know, I don't know how to address those kinds of concerns.
And I can say with the ELA program is they do a lot of cutting and pasting. And not a lot of drawing with that, but they cut out pictures, they cut out letters, they glue them onto sheets with that piece of it. And now in our kindergarten class, they do it as part of a rotation, And I think it's like 5 minutes, working on the letter sounds or working on the recognizing of the letters. So it's very minimal with that. But they do cut, they do glue, and that's almost, if not daily, it's 3 to 4 times a week that they are cutting and gluing on that piece of it in the kindergarten classroom.
But I think that's also why we want to make sure they're getting the recess and getting out and doing something else and,
Yep, absolutely.
you know, getting those breaks.
Okay, well,
Anybody be?
it's different than I thought it was, I guess.
And we'd be happy in addressing the question of what does minimal mean.
Sure.
We've been doing a little bit of our own research internally at the schools and finding out how much time, what is the average time that a kindergartner spends in front of the screen? I think I'd be interested to know that. I'm sure
Me too.
principals would be interested to know that as well. And then we could address that in maybe a more scientific way and say, here's what's actually happening versus here, maybe alleviate some of those fears.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for letting us have this discussion. I think, you know, at least I got enough of the input in questions. I think, Tammy, you got enough questions that we wanted to at least have a discussion on what we have, what we don't have, what it's being used for, and why, and hopefully it helps inform the public as well as us as the board, so.
I would ask that next year, whatever grades are one-to-one, will you let the parents know?
Yes.
Just like you let the parents know for 4th and 5th graders.
And I guess we didn't even really call them one-to-one in 3rd grade, we just had the computers available
Just
for
tools,
kids.
yeah.
So we weren't really even thinking of them as a one-to-one device.
I'm pretty sure the parents don't know.
And so
Almost
we'd be happy to say,
positive.
here's what we have available for your children as far as technology, from kindergarten all the way through, that's not a problem.
Madam Chair, if I could just add one more thing. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, our push with blended learning was significant. It may have been the driving force with a lot of our instruction, teacher training. We've softened. We've had to because of the English, the CKLA, the reading, our new math program. There are some that are not okay with that. I'm very okay with that. We were a little too top-heavy one direction, so.
Thank you. Yeah, and like I say, and I've heard from I did talk to some of the 3rd grade teachers who say the same thing that you did, that at this point with the CKLA and the ELA, that really they are spending so much time off the screen and really focusing and doing other things that at least at the 3rd grade level, the screen time at school is minimal, but it would still be interesting to sort of track what it is, figure out how we get a balance in all the grades, and, you know.
We'll make Jaren do that.
Exactly. That's why I was like, I was going to just really go after Jaren. All right, thank you guys very much.
We don't know, kind of a closure to this, what that computer science is going to require. We do know that the standards are waning.
Right.
And it could be, some have said, it could be as much as 100 hours for a kid over the course of the year, starting in kindergarten. And you go, well, where do you fit that in?
So you can count their home.
That doesn't mean screen time necessarily. It could mean critical thinking time, where a kid sits down and says, how do I go from here to here without ever touching a computer? And then determining how you would write up a program or code, for example, and then apply that to the computer. So it wouldn't just be sitting in front of the screen time.
Okay.
So the standards are good standards. We just it's brand new to us. We're still learning a lot about it.
All right, we'll balance as best we can. Thank you guys again very much for answering our questions. I appreciate that very much.
Yep.
Okay, we do have public comment is next on the agenda. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the board? Anyone? Sure. Come on up.
Our public.
Yeah, you're so public today.
We had some tag-alongs there. Okay.
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I just thought about this while I was sitting there. I have a 3rd grader, and no, I didn't know she had access to a one-to-one computer during the day, but CKLA stuff. I personally, why top scores matter, obviously they matter to everybody in the district, they have to matter, I don't care what her Y-top scores are. I care that she comes home and starts talking to me about ancient Egypt, and I say, where did you learn that? And she says, oh, we read about it in English. That's cool. That makes me really happy to know that she's reading that kind of cool stuff at school, which is new this year. She never told me that stuff last year.
It's true.
So I think that's very cool. So kudos on the CKLA stuff. It remains to be seen what it does to Y-top scores, but it makes me happy that she's coming home telling me that kind of stuff. And then a shout out to the high school, anybody who made it to the musical over the weekend.
It was awesome.
It was great. They're always great. The acting was great. The singing was great. What really, really impressed me was the sets.
Yeah.
They were so intricate, and they had so many different things pulling off and on the stage. And knowing that the kids primarily made all that was awesome. So I just wanted to do a shout out to those couple things. So
Thank you, and yeah, it's good to hear. We agree with the CKLA. I think that was a good decision.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Great, let's move on to the presentations. So now we have the K-5 instruction strategic plan, or something like that.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. We decided this year, because in the past we presented on 2 different months, and we decided this year, instead of hearing a lot of repetitive things, that we would combine our presentations and maybe save you some time.
Like streamlining.
But at the same time, we'll go K-12 with curriculum, K-12 with HR, the things that we're doing. So just as an add-on to that piece. Again, we thank you for this opportunity.
Not that less is more, but you did talk long enough for that to go dead in the last session.
But who's counting?
Just answering questions.
I am. All right. So one of the things just to address, you asked the question, options in our programs when we do a resource adoption, are there options for kids that are not inclined to
Who mama doesn't want him to have a computer?
And the answer to that is absolutely. In all of our resource adoptions, to this point, we've purchased both the digital and the textbook, the paperback subscription. So we always have that option.
Yeah, it wasn't so easy when he was in school.
Absolutely, absolutely. But from the work that we've done starting 3 years ago with math and social studies, that's been the case.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, obviously, we're going to talk about curriculum assessment, instruction, and then also HR. We gave you several different documents. We're not going to talk about all of them here. We don't want to take that time, but they're there for you to look at as you're interested. So I really wanted to put this slide up because I think it's really cool. So there are some that are going to challenge my math, and that's okay because I'm a social studies guy. But what I wanted to show was we did the math and social studies adoption in 16-17. Since then, we've seen an increase. So if you take all of the 612 schools, okay, all of the 612 schools in math, okay, we have 40% more proficient students this year in our preliminary results than we did in 16-17.
Well, and social studies got to be 100% because we didn't have any.
Right. Well, it's not tested, so I can only speak to math. But then, so as you look at our language arts.
Not that I was mad about that or anything.
Language arts, only a year in its in the adoption, the implementation, and we're at 31% more increase in proficiency.
And that's over that 3-year period.
No, but that's...
Right. That's actually just this year. From last year's to this year's, 6th grade through 10th grade, the increase in proficiency is 31%.
So we're doing something right.
We are. And I'll get to, so I want to make sure that we wrap around after Dr. Ingalls talks about some of his stuff, because it's absolutely, a lot of it, at least a third of it, is tied to the resource adoption and getting that guaranteed curriculum. But I want to talk about some of the other, like collaboration, right? And making sure that teachers have time to collaborate are the other 2 pieces to that very, very important puzzle. Okay? And then math, or science, right now, we're looking at about a 4% increase. And middle school has done their adoption. They'll use Amplify Science starting next year. You will see some of that this year. We were able to negotiate the opportunity to our last unit. Our teachers are collaborating. Why would we have them collaborate and develop a lesson that they'll never teach again
Right.
if we've adopted something new? So we negotiated the ability to get into the resource a little bit sooner. So they're planning and developing, and they'll be actually teaching the unit of instruction from Amplify at the end of the year this year. So, and then other things, industrial technology, you remember we did engravers at both middle schools.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my rolling pin.
Right, see, there you go. We're also looking at, we have bids out right now for the sewing machines that our fax teachers presented to you a little while ago. And then Bubba talked about band instruments, so that'll be a combination of activities as well as curriculum in trying to do some of that work. Okay?
Thanks, Mr. Rigby. Going back to 2016-17 was the first year of implementation. The first thing that happened once I assumed this opportunity was that we looked at our prioritized standards from the new adopted standards from the state of Wyoming for social studies, and we immediately began to do unit planning. And from the unit planning, once those were established and our prioritized standards were in place, we then looked at some piloting and try and come up with and adopt resources. We adopted resources based upon the needs at individual grade levels. K2, we use Pearson, and 3-5, we utilize a separate resource, but they all meet the unit plan. And the unit plan was really the core of that, not the resource itself. So that was the direction that we went with social studies. CKLA, as was already mentioned, and I didn't pay to have that advertisement earlier. CKLA enhances the social studies in the classroom. I got a great email from a parent who said, I'm not sure what role you played in this process. I assume you had some responsibility. But I just want you to know that when my second grade child comes home and tells me that there were 6 causes of the War of 1812, and that's a conversation that we have at dinner, I'm pretty impressed with that. So really, if you look at CKLA and remember that, it's the skills and the knowledge that are built together so that when they hit 3rd grade, you've got a reader at that point in time. Science, 2017 to 19, we are aligning to the Wyoming standards. We have the units adopt the priority standards already in place. When our science folks go to the state meetings, they're ahead of the game. They come away saying, wow, we're so far ahead of the people that we were meeting with, and they're excited about that. So we're moving ahead in that particular area. They've developed proficiency scales around those, and they have their unit planning documents in place K through 5. Exciting to see that. We still utilize the STEM scopes as our resource and continue to support them in that particular resource adoption. What's exciting for us as well is as you look at music, PE, media, and technology. For the first time, I would venture to guess in Uintah County history, we have and we'll have a guaranteed and viable curriculum in music K-5. There's a resource that we purchased that's a K2 resource. It is available 3-5, but at this point, the music teachers at the elementary level have said we'd like to just go K2 with it and build that. It's interesting with that because you don't just teach notation once and then call it a 6-week unit. So what they've had to do is some overlapping of units across the year, and that's a different look than what you might see, say, in a math unit planning process. So that's where we're at. I'm excited. My compliments to I call them the elementary music PLC department, but they've done a nice job this year in bringing that. A lot of great discussion, and some of them coming together with some consensus building around that. Physical education, also resources purchased for them last year, and as we look at what they're doing now, they have developed common unit plans for the entire year K-5. They will be placed up on the website within the next month, and we're doing just some fine-tuning, but they've done an incredible job with that as well, with proficiency scales of what it means. in each of those units as well. Now they're looking at developing common assessments and moving forward with that. So you'll notice in our presentation that the strategic planning piece is built into what we're describing at this point. Media and technology, there are no state standards currently for what you might consider library standards. We really looked at the national media and what's called the International Society for Technology standards and utilized those to come up with our prioritized standards. They're doing the same work that music and PE are doing, and so across the district we'll have that. The computer science requirement is really something that we're looking at as the K-5, building that into our technology currently.
So that would come into this component?
It would come into this one as well. We're asking them as well to receive that certification which the state is offering and moving that forward in conjunction with PTSB. These are the two curriculums, our math and ELA. As you remember, when that was adopted, 16-17, you can see where we are. We determined priority and essential standards. June of last year, we put together unit plans. Each grade level team got together and did that. We've been individual grade level teams of individual schools have been putting some common assessments together. We'll continue to do that and move forward with that. Throughout the year, they've been utilizing the plan to inform instruction, and they continue to develop those assessments. We're looking at a district level benchmark and utilizing that to see how are kids doing across the district at different benchmarking points throughout the year. As you look at CKLA, and I'm going quick, please stop me if you have questions, and we'll have an opportunity later for that as well. 2018-19 was our CKLA core language implementation. We have monthly job embedded training. We have 2 experts who come in, as well as another expert who's really an interventionist, and an expert, Tammy Beebe Schwartz, comes in as well, and is working in this coordinated effort to move this work forward. So once a month, they've been here in district. They're visiting individual classrooms, grade level teams. They're here putting PD on in the morning on that 4th Monday, and they're providing that throughout the year, so it's ongoing. That's an investment. Oftentimes what you run into is they give an implementation initial, here's the program, here's how you use it, and then you move on, and at the end of the year you might get let's get a little opportunity to look at it again. We've tried to do it throughout the year, and I think it's worked out well for our teachers in supporting them. Consistent support from the leadership team. I meet with one individual from each school that goes back and supports the work within the schools, and we meet weekly to talk about how are things going, what can we do, and how can we improve what's happening there. Our purpose is to really teach the program with integrity, which means teaching it so that you're getting the outcomes that the program intended. 2019-20, we'll begin identifying the priority standards: reading, language, writing, speaking, and listening, foundational skills. Those are all built into that ELA, or the Core Knowledge Language Arts program. It is an evidence-based program. The state is requiring that, and it's interesting with the way that they rewrote the law. That's going to be a part of that. We're looking at our Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. Really, Tier 2 is what do we do with those kids within core that maybe need a little bit more assistance. The Tier 3 are those kids still in core, but they're getting those gaps filled at a different time. So we're looking at how do we build those in. The principals are doing an incredible job with their staff in building those time frames in to the individual instructional day. The last one is the M-Class screener. We've had a pilot this year. We've been doing with about 14 teachers across the district. This is aligned with the Core Knowledge Language Arts program. It's DIBELS, and it's really advanced, much more robust than what we're currently using, which is FAST. The law that was passed this year, and I talked with the state today, it was House Bill 297, which is K-3 Reading Assessment Intervention Program. It requires the following: phonological awareness, phonics, decoding, oral reading fluency, and reading comprehension. Currently, the FAST doesn't cover that reading comprehension piece. It covers some of those other things. But one of the things that's really nice about that particular program and that tool is that it also aligns with CKLA, and there are intervention lessons that are brought up, which are evidence-based lessons. Kids struggling with this, it says, try these things, and it has individual lessons aligned to that. So it's awesome as far as its robustness and meeting the needs that the state is asking us to meet. if a child flags as well, kindergarten, first and second grade, that child then, there's a dyslexia screener that's built into it, and, which is also part of the law. And then those kids would then get that as an additional screening opportunity for them. So that's
we can
in
catch
class.
it earlier.
Yes, absolutely. Catch it as early as kindergarten. If a child's really struggling, then we're moving in that way. So, thanks.
Very good.
So I wanted to come back to this. So our middle school preliminary scores are significant in terms of increases. There's some that cohorts that are moving from 7th to 8th grade, for example, that have increased proficiency by 22%, which is off the charts. And what I wanted to come back to this is when we talk about a guaranteed and viable curriculum, I am very, very excited about our high school and the change in the schedule because it's going to allow for the collaboration time that they've not been able to have where our middle schools have. And so I'm very confident that we're going to see changes in high school scores that are similar to what we see at the middle school over time. Okay? And you know, to that point, Chairman Bracken, you had mentioned, you know, the ability to tie our achievement data back to our
planning
late start Monday thing. And I don't know that it would be fair to do that after 1 year's data. But I think it definitely will be able to do that after a couple of years of data.
Well, and we have introduced a lot of new things. I mean, it's how do you distinguish if it's the curriculum, if it's the planning, if, you know, it's got to be a combination of everything. So it's hard to distinguish, but it would be interesting.
I think you're right. I think it absolutely is a combination of a lot of different things. All right, so looking ahead, so for this next year, you know, in terms of elementary, they're looking at continuing support programs, existing resources, like CKLA, continuing that professional development opportunity. For the secondary, really looking at the fine and performing arts. And I gotta tell you, this, similar to technology, can be a black hole in terms of funding. Just, you know, if you buy desks for a regular class, it's about $5,000. You buy desks for an art classroom, and it's about $30,000. So it's different. Band instruments cost more than textbooks. And so there's a lot of expenses there. So what we're going to try to do is break that up over a few years and try to really take care of our fine and performing arts. But as I mentioned, looking at our band, our instruments, choral music, we'll take care of those guys. They made a simple request at the middle school for some their textbooks for choral. They're not really textbooks, but whatever it is.
The music.
Yeah, thank you. There you go. That's why I don't write curriculum for music. So, but I mean, we're talking about, you know, $13 and 60 bucks type thing. So we're going to take care of those folks. We need to look at strings, right? A lot of the instruments that we have that we use for rentals were purchased 10, 15 years ago. A lot of the band instruments, as you heard, when Bubba gave his deal, a lot of those are what we received from 5th grade band several years ago. So it's time. And then pottery, thanks to John Davis and his crew, and our safety Larry, I believe is his name. There were some issues in the pottery room that we're going to have to address. So
Got a bad wheel?
For some reason, you're not supposed to take the wires and connect them and stuff to get your pottery. I'm just kidding. That's an exaggeration. Wasn't that bad.
Please don't, Brett.
But there were some things in the pottery room. It was never designed to be a classroom to begin with. It was a storage room that was made into a classroom when we added a third art teacher.
Okay.
And so we've got some work to do there. And so we'll spend some time and money there. High school science, I spent yesterday with high school science teachers working with McGraw-Hill, looking at some different resources from them. They're excited about kind of digging in and trying some stuff. So they're going to be piloting units at the end of this year and then the beginning of next year as well. Okay.
As far as our curriculum work, really the foundation, we start at the top there with our prioritized standards and learning targets in those areas. You've heard me talk about that already. You've heard Mr. Rigby talk about that as well. And so that's really that core, that's where we're at. Developing that proficiency skills so we know what does it mean to be proficient. What skills, what concepts do kids need to understand and know and be able to do in order to be proficient, and how do we get them there? What are the learning progressions that get kids to that particular level? And this year, the focus is going to be with common assessments. We're fortunate to have Jan Haig coming, and we'll be spending a number of different days throughout the year with us in helping to support that work. She'll be here at the beginning of the year, as she was last year, and really starting the year out with those common assessments and really giving us that information and helping build that. The next piece is build and modify Tier 2 intervention systems. We're working on that. Looks maybe a little bit different in K-5 than it does in 6-12, but that's a focus in both areas. And then K-5 really looking at that Tier 3 intervention. How do we meet the needs of those kids? Because all kids get core. That's what we're saying. Every child is going to receive core instruction. That's Tier 1 instruction. And they're not going to be pulled out, so they get their Tier 3. Built into the day, outside of that, then comes that Tier 3 piece. And that's what we're talking about there as we move forward with that. Effective instruction in every classroom, that's our level 2. It isn't that we haven't been focused on that before, but at this point in time, that's going to be really that laser light focus for us as we move into next year.
Which is where the late start really plays a role.
Exactly, and really becomes important there. Revised K-5 report cards. As you know, when you get a new program, our report cards are pretty much standards-based at this point in time. But what's happening right now is we're revising those. We started with kindergarten and got their input, brought them together, and building from there. We'll do the same thing 1 through 5. Doesn't mean that they're going to be this is the way it's going to be for the next 5 years. It's a changing process. It's not like we're going to change it entirely, but there will be some changes that are forthcoming.
But it will be standardized so that everybody's sort of getting the same format.
Yeah, they will have, all schools will have the same format. And then finally, I'll let you address that last one.
Really just kind of looking at standards reference reporting, so that grades in the secondary schools represent where kids are in their understanding of the essential standards, right? So right now, when you look at, when you get your kid's report card and there's this long list of assignments, right? The assignments, basically those grades represent completion of assignments, not necessarily attainment of knowledge as it ties to the standards. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't, it's just being more clear about which assignments are supporting which standards and being able to report to kids and parents where kids are in relation to the expectations standards-wise for each course.
That'd be interesting to have.
All right, so federal grant management is another one of our responsibilities. These are the ones that I'm responsible for. Title II-A, which is our professional development money. That's federal funds that are set aside or given to the district for professional development. And so we get about $300,000 for that. And then we get a Title IV grant, which is for professional development and some other stuff. And all that money goes into professional development. So it's about $400 and some thousand. And on another document that I share with you, over 90% of that goes to the staff. That's one of the big shifts that you saw in the last 3 years. All of our professional development money is going to our staff. We have people that are going to Las Vegas. We bring people in. Dr. Ingalls talked about Jan Haig. She was here a week or so ago and worked with the elementary specialists and our high school science teachers. It's a fantastic day. And feedback from teachers, this was awesome. They get specialized instruction just for them in supporting the work that they're doing right now. So that's where that money goes. Perkins, around $81,000 for last year. That changes based on our enrollment. And so, but it's really for our vocational areas. We did spend a little bit of money in the middle schools, which we haven't traditionally done, but we certainly can do that. And then Title I-D is neglected and delinquent funds. We use that for our APEX online course supplements. If a student is long-term suspended or expelled, they can still earn credit through our APEX. So.
The two areas that we work on, one of the federal grants that we have is our Title I. You probably hear that more than anything else. Title I we get next year will be $1.1 million that we receive from that. The way that that's determined is we have to show that we are equitably and fairly allocating those resources from a district level. So we do that through staffing and other things, and there's formulas that we have to build in. But they make a determination, once that is there, there's a formula that the state uses, which includes our low income, which is determined by free and reduced lunch numbers, and that's what they use to determine at risk. As you look at what the purpose of Title I-A is, equal and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education for at-risk and low-income students. So each of our individual schools receives an allocation. Alicia and I, 3 years ago, tried to adjust that allocation by $1. They said, no, you're out, you can't do that. So once that allocation is set, from the numbers, it's set, and that's what that school receives. Once that gets to the school, and that's a change with ESSA, then that site-based team makes the decisions on how that money is spent based on the needs of that particular school, and that's what it's intended from the federal government. So we give some guidance and direction from our office, but a lot of that then, once it hits the school, is a site-based decision. The next piece is Title III. That's really to help to ensure our English language learners attain language proficiency. We utilize it to offset salaries and benefits with some of our staff. Not a lot, very small, $3,000 this year. Purchase services, which is PD and training for our folks, and then provide supplies and materials. This year we received $24,184. We have also gone through this year our grant management and our consolidated grants, which is all of those. We went through a big audit. They were here. We were excited that some of the things that they suggested were small, little tweaks that we needed to make. So we're quite proud of the work that our staff does and the work that has been going on to make sure that we are in compliance with federal requirements. So we're doing well with that.
And grant management takes an insane amount of time.
Yes, it does.
So, all right, so human resources, also part of our responsibility. We're working on continuing education training and incentive programs for our support staff, and looking at a focus on customer service with that. In addition, that would be for everybody, and then job-specific outside of that. So trying to put together that program so that all of our support staff would have the opportunity to get that credit, to get that advancement or that bonus for our support staff. It takes about 225 hours worth of coursework. Okay, and so that's what we're putting together. Like I said, customer service is part of that. That's a global idea, and then job-specific training in addition to that. Okay.
The next piece we're looking at is the updating of our job descriptions. That's an ongoing process because sometimes those jobs change. And so we are in the process of updating those, job-specific, really...
I'm really excited about aligning, basically, updating the job descriptions,
and
which needs to be done, and then
to
aligning the evaluations to what the fundamental core job is.
Exactly, because currently what we have is a one-size-fits-all, which is okay. In some cases is okay. And it has, some core things like prompt, on time, work quality, which those things are important as well. But these would be really, as a custodial staff, here's what their responsibility is, and here's how we're evaluating whether they're meeting that. That's a work in progress. That, again, is not going to happen overnight, but it's happening over time. So we're building that, and a lot of the work that we do in the summer, especially the month of June, it falls around some of those particular areas. Hiring protocol this year, we introduced a hiring protocol handbook for all of our directors and principals, and in it outlines the hiring process. The do's and don'ts, what you should do, what you can't do, scripting.
The records you have to keep, the whole thing, and everything else.
Interview teams, what they can do, what they can't do, the norming process, all of that we put together and tried to train, and we'll continue to train around that piece. I'll let Mr. Rigby talk about the progressive discipline.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want that
The fun part, right, and then I get the progressive discipline. So, progressive discipline is...
I don't know that I want that, but... Okay.
What's that?
He said, I'm not sure I want that, but, okay,
Well,
talk to me.
So what it outlines is, since we've put this in place, we're 100% unemployment claims against us for wrongful, right, or for termination without cause versus with cause. We're 100%. So making sure that we're doing everything that
I would rather have due process discipline than progressive discipline, and there's a difference, and we can talk about that later.
Sure, absolutely. And you have a copy of everything that we put, or
Right.
it's been put in place. So
Right.
anyway, the bottom line is, so that we're standardizing, so it doesn't matter whether you're a custodian or superintendent, assistant superintendent, very similar, you have due process. Here are the things that you have to go through. You have to go through
But
stages.
what I don't want, progressive discipline implies that for your first offense, I have to do something less than termination, even if it's something egregious, and that's what I don't want.
And it's written into our handbook that that's not the case.
Right, and so that's why I call it due process procedures rather than progressive discipline, so.
Okay. But the bottom line is what we're trying to do is create standardized discipline so that
And that I
it's
agree
fair
with.
for everybody.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I would say, one of the goals of our administrative group, the principals that we work with, actually our vision is efficacy for all. And what that really means is that we are giving our people the tools and the knowledge they need to be successful in their job. We don't want to ask people to do something that they don't have the skills or the tools to do. And so that's why we put such a heavy emphasis on the professional development. That's why we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in training our staff and the things that we're asking them to do around priority standards and proficiency scales and common assessments. And above all else, we want to make sure that everybody's treated with dignity and respect. That's what everybody deserves. We truly do believe that our people are our greatest asset in our district.
Very nice.
And so as we think about that, a quote from Albert Einstein fits nicely into how we strive to treat our people. And we really truly believe in human capital. That's who we are about. Is it only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile? And I think it's important that we keep that in mind, whether it's an HR situation, those things that are happening at the school, and moving that into the classroom so that students are well served. This is an idea beyond those other areas that are responsibilities. These are some things that we also dabble in, and some days it's more than dabbling. Student discipline at times. There are things that happen at the schools where we offer our support and for the principals and really working through some things with them as well, and they do a great job with it. Once in a while it's nice to bounce an idea, or once in a while it's nice to have somebody there who you can work through those, and some of these are real difficult situations. As you know, May's been an incredible month for some of those, and that's a piece of that. Communication, we're really striving to get better at that. Alicia, we've sent her, she's been trained in just that, and unfortunately she was hit by a drunk driver after the training, and so she's really been struggling with that at this point in time. But the training was great, and she's bringing back some ideas of how we can improve the communication that we have with all of our staff. New teacher support, Becky Symes does an incredible job with our new teachers. If you ask the 30 people who were served by our induction program how they feel about what has happened for them, I venture to guess that they would give an 8, 9, or 10 as a rating for the service and the support that they've received, and that's due to the work that she does. Mr. Rigby and I both also act as secondary evaluators for all of those new teachers, so we're engaged with them as well as we go through that process. The next is the homebound services. That's something K-12, and that's for those students who have to be homebound. We provide them their education in their home. And sometimes that might be for 3 weeks, sometimes that might be an extended period of time. And that's all done through our office as well. Legislative lobbyist, that's something that we strive to give feedback and input to our legislative group who represent us, and sometimes we give our opinion to others, whether they like to hear it or not. We strive to do that as well. And ultimately is that human capital development.
So I think it's important for us to share that we believe that we are on the right track. We get feedback from other people that we work with. The things that we're doing are above and beyond, not above and beyond, I'm trying to think of the right words, but there are several schools and districts that are envious of the work that we're doing here and that our teachers are doing, and that the time that they have to collaborate. There are a lot of folks that are trying to do what we're doing right now, and we need to recognize that because there's a lot of really good stuff going on. the movement to high reliability schools, where we're taking school improvement and taking it out of a central location and putting it at the school level where it belongs, where teacher teams are determining what they want to focus on in each of those different levels. We're very, very proud of. And then the professional learning communities, again, our teachers are our greatest resource, and it just seems counterintuitive not to have the people that are closest to the work helping to direct the work.
And all of our schools are committed to that highest level of learning for all students, and we've defined that as a leadership team. And really, that's our mission, is to ensure that all students learn at high levels. And we define that really as on grade level or beyond. And we truly believe that. And as a leadership team, we've done some work around our vision, our mission, our commitments to that work, and moving forward with some goal setting. We shared that document with you as well. But if you look at it this year, all of our schools are on track to be certified level 1 in the high reliability schools. The Marzano folks will look at the evidence that they've turned in, and I think our last group is like that 20th, 22nd of May. For them to actually have that webinar with those outside consultants to say yay or nay. And we'll report back how that all went. We're proud of the work that our principals are doing in leading that. We're grateful that our teachers have put forth the time and effort that they have to ensure that our schools are safe, supportive, and collaborative. Again, you're starting with that as your basis. When you think about Maslow and some of those things, not much happens if you're not feeling safe or supported or belonging. And that's a big part of that. Effective instruction in every classroom, research-proven strategies. Really, we're looking at the new art and science of teaching as kind of as really our Bible around that effective instruction. We still have our 5 Ds, our 5 dimensions of learning. That's the basis for much of the work that we're doing right now, and we continue to meld those two. And then our guaranteed and viable curriculum. We're proud of the work that our teachers are doing and our principals in helping to support that and move that work forward, so we're grateful for that.
And then lastly, it's really around the professional learning communities. The principle behind this is, what do we want every kid to know and be able to do? What's that essential content? And then how do we know if kids are learning it? That's the common assessment piece. So taking this back to the work that we've already identified, identifying priority standards and learning targets, that's really identifying what we want every kid to know and be able to do. Common assessments are tied to question number 2. How will we know if students are learning it? Dr. Ingles talked about the Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention systems. That's what are we doing for kids that don't learn it the first time? Okay? All of our schools have time built into the day somewhere. Win time, it can be devil pride time, whatever you want to call it. So how do we maximize the use of that time? And so those are things that we're going to be tackling next year. And then ultimately, if a kid gets it the first time, what do we do for that kid? How are we enriching and extending their learning so that we can continue to grow those students? Because growth is for all kids. It's not for, the state measures growth, our lowest 23%, we're actually graded on that in our accountability model. Did our kids grow at a higher rate than 50% of the other districts in the state, which by the way is a silly indicator, but that's beside the point. But it's not just about those students, it's about all of our students. How are we continuing to grow all of our kids? And that's what I love about the PLC process, is it really gets to, it's about all kids. So we also just want to make sure that we recognize there's been a significant culture shift in the last 3 years.
We've made a lot of changes.
In our district, okay? And here's the height of irony, right? Irony too. The height of irony is, a lot of this was really around there's too much change, there's too much, but what happened was the change was different because it was focused on this is the high reliability schools framework defines. It's not we're going to pick this to work on now, we're going to pick that to work on now. It's right there, and it's research proven, right? And it's all right there. And quite honestly, we got a lot of the right people making a lot of the right choices and decisions, and it's been really. I don't want to speak for Dr. Ingles, but I know he feels the same way. It's been fun. It's been a lot of work, but it's been fun to see a lot of the transformation that's taking place. in our district and where we are in terms of our teacher collaboration and their willingness to work together, it is amazing.
I think the buy-in has made a significant difference in the culture.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
A night and day difference.
I agree. I guess in closing, it's a privilege to work with Mr. Rigby. I know some people wonder, okay, how's this going to work where you have somebody who's over K-5 and somebody who's over 612, and we work very, very closely together. We probably spend at least a few minutes every day, depending on which direction we're going on that particular day, but it's a privilege to work with him. It's a privilege to work with Ryan. He is visionary and is really moving this work forward and supporting us in that as well. Our principals, we couldn't do this work without them, and our teachers. We have some amazing people, but I do want to thank, and I know Mr. Rigby as well, this group of 9 people who sit before us. Thank you. Thank you for the support that you've given. Thank you for what you've done so that we can continue to move this work forward. I sure hope that if you ever have a question, my door is always open. Even when it's not, please wait, because it will open soon. And please stop by. And I know that the principals feel the same way. They are appreciative of the support that they are receiving and know that they receive from this group. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Questions? Yeah.
On the PLCs, I don't know if you're checking with your staff or not, but is there a point where they feel like they've grasped what they need for this year, at the end of the year? And then how do they decide where you're going to go next year with it?
So in terms of, there's several groups that we have, teacher teams, that have done an incredible job of identifying those priority standards, learning targets, develop common assessments. Really, next year is going to be the focus on what's the best intervention system to support kids.
Because I've heard nothing but positive with it.
Right.
And it's really been a growth thing for our teachers, because they get to work with people that have the same issues that they do, at the same grade level, the same subject.
Absolutely.
It's not a new idea, but it's a better idea now, because we never did anything about it.
Right.
And now we give them the chance to do it.
And
Right.
It is so, there's a couple of teams, I don't want to put them on the spot, but there's a couple, they're like my feel-good teams. If I'm having a crappy day, and I'll just go sit in and watch them either teach, or if it happens to be a Wednesday, I'll go sit in on their teams. Like tomorrow, I am stoked, because my calendar is clear enough that unless something comes up, I'm going to be able to go sit in on the team meetings, because I've got some stuff I need to ask them, okay? But there are teams that I can't wait to go sit in on, because it just makes me feel good about my job. And it's not because of anything crazy that I've done, right? I like to think that I've supported the work and try to create some frameworks for this. But the reality is, they're just awesome. And they have taken on working together, and it's so fun to sit and listen. You have a teacher that's a 30-year veteran and a damn good teacher that's working with a kid, I'll call him a kid, that's been doing this for 4 years, and they're meeting in the middle. Right? And this 30-year vet is sitting down and saying, okay, yeah, I know I used to do this, and I love that, but I'm willing to try this, because what we're doing is awesome. And by the way, that's an 8th grade ELA team that had astronomical numbers in terms of proficiency so far, preliminarily. So just fun. But yeah, that's the beauty of it, David. And I want to quit talking. You're supposed to hit me. Less is more.
Just enjoying it.
Honestly, it's the right professional development. Because when they sit down and talk, they're talking about how to meet the needs of these kids. And who better to find that out from than a person that's been teaching it for 25 years and has great strategies.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Thank you guys very much. I know this has been a lot of work and a lot of changes, and I thank you guys for your work, and really the principals for getting on board and supporting this too, so thank you.
Thank you.
So we've sort of combined those and killed 2 birds with 1 stone, right?
Yes.
We're ready for action items?
Yes.
All right. First item on the action items is the meal prices, increasing the meal price for 2019-20.
Madam Chair, members of the board, our recommendation is that we approve the meal prices by 25 cents as previously discussed in 2 board meetings. This will raise roughly $100,000 and still keep us in the red. But it's a first shot. We'll review it again next year, but our recommendation is to approve this 25 cents.
All right, do we have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the meal prices for next year, 25% increase. 25 cents increase.
We've got a second by Cassie. Any discussion? No? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No? All right, motion carries. Next, we have the student privacy SEPA-FERPA compliance, first reading.
Madam Chair, members of the board, again, Jaren did talk about this and review it. This is a requirement. It is in place already, but this is an update. If you go through it, it actually outlines how we protect our students and our staff, how we monitor, how we keep the educational records safe. If you remember, several years ago, there was an issue about how or what information we share to the outside. Well, this clarifies what we do and what we don't, and we don't share much information. So I recommend that you approve it at first reading. I'm probably not the source to answer your questions about it, but you will have an opportunity in June to pick Jaren's brain.
So you want us to approve it now and ask questions in June?
And truly, that's up to you guys.
Approve the first reading?
Yeah, it is first reading. It does take 2 readings, so you will have another opportunity if you have specific questions.
Okay, any other questions about what it is? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the first reading of the student privacy CIPA FERPA compliance.
Motion?
Second.
Second by Caleb. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Having none, the motion carries. Next is the first reading of policy EGAB, which is the inspection and copying of public records.
Madam Chair, I recommend that we table this until June. It is not where it needs to be, and I'll keep working on it.
Thank you for saying that, because I had a lot of changes.
I've probably downloaded 5 or 6 of these from other districts, and it just needs work. So recommend that we table it. I'll try to get the draft copy to you earlier so you can look at it in June.
Actually, what I'll need is a motion to continue the item until next month.
Madam Chair, I move that we table, or
not table,
continue policy EGAB until next month.
I'll second.
Second by Krista. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Next is the approval of the emergency generator at the bus barn.
Madam Chair, it looks like Transportation Director Dickerson is on his way to the mic.
Who's paying what?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the good news is that the Phillips 66 grant did come through. We should be seeing it soon. And because it's written to the school district, the spending will probably come through us, but it is going to be from that grant. What they would like to do is the group would like to extend an invitation for some representation from the board and the administration for a shovel turning and check presentation, which is part of the requirement of the grant from Phillips 66, their PR, out at the bus barn on Tuesday the 4th at 9 in the morning. So if anybody can make it, I would appreciate it. There will be, I don't know how many of these people are going to attend, but I know the mayor has been invited, the chief of police, fire department, et cetera, et cetera.
At 9 in the morning?
Yes.
I will try to make it. I'm going to do my best. Tammy's more photogenic. She'll be in the pictures.
Stop that.
I'm not photogenic, so if somebody would come this big enough for me to hide behind, I'd appreciate it. But anyway, this project is going forward, and actually, I spoke with a gentleman today from Wyoming Preparedness and Response, and they are offering some fresh money that has to be spent by July 1st So we're not sure where that's going to go yet, but find that out next meeting. But they are getting some people making commitments here, and it sounds like it's going to go.
Okay, so we are approving tonight this expenditure of the $66,000 grant?
It's a $25,000 grant.
Oh, $25,000.
The money's coming through us.
But the money's coming through us?
Yes.
All right, do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that are we approving the emergency generator? Is that what
We're approving the expenditure of the funds towards the emergency.
Toward the emergency generator.
Yeah, the expenditure of the grant money.
Move that we approve.
It's toward the entire project. It's not
Expenditure
for-
of the grant towards the emergency generator at the bus barn.
Correct.
Good?
That's it.
Enough?
Do I have a second? Second from Caleb. There we go. Any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Seeing none, the motion carries. You've been approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we have our board meeting schedule.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we put this on here just in case you guys came to a consensus and you're okay moving forward with what we discussed earlier.
And it sounded to me like everybody was okay with the first Tuesday, like we were. Russell, I don't know how that impacts you. Is that going to work?
Well, I mean, I obviously have my own ideas, but my own ideas didn't work out, so I can roll with the consensus of the board.
Okay. Appreciate that very
Could you
much.
join us on the telephone?
Join us, join us as often as you can, please.
Madam Chair, if I may, just to summarize to make sure I have it correct. So what we're going to do is school board meetings will start at 7 o'clock. If we have...
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Exec sessions will be earlier.
Okay, glad I clarified.
Yes.
So 5:30 for the executive session unless it'll be longer than that.
Right.
So from 5 to 6 or from 5:30 to 6, but we'll always start our board meetings at 6.
Correct.
Okay. And it's the first Tuesday of the month.
And the first Tuesday of the month with an option for work sessions on the 5th.
On the 5th. Okay, we'll make that happen. Good.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the board meeting schedule as discussed.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the 2019-2020 board meeting schedule as discussed.
I'll second.
And second by Krista. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, was waiting for Russell, but doesn't sound like it, so I'm going to put you down as an aye.
I said I would agree.
Okay.
I will do.
All right, motion carries. And next, we are on the technology expenditures, which gets us back to the computers, which I believe was for the teachers and replacement Chromebooks. Is that right?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, if you look at the list, there is a lot of software and some hardware. So that's software licenses. And it's your discretion if you want to wait till June to approve this. I think that gives still enough time to get these purchased. And so you can ask specific questions. Again, these are purchases that are not much different than what we've purchased in the past, especially the software licenses. It continues what we've continued in the past. It has deleted a few that we no longer use, which I guess is the good news. Like I said, it's Jaren's position about the third grade one-to-one. This wasn't part of that purchase.
Okay. So I either need a motion to approve or a motion to continue, I suppose.
I move that we approve the 2019-2020 technology expenditures as presented.
Second. A second by Cassie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Having none, the motion carries. All right, we are moving along then to our executive session. So we are going to be probably about an hour, but then we will come back and have other action items. Is that about right?
Madam Chair, before you take action on the executive session, I would like to add real estate.
Okay, so we need a motion to convene an executive session for personnel, potential litigation, student discipline, and property acquisition.
Meet and confer.
And meet and confer, yes. Somebody got all that?
Property acquisition.
Property acquisition. So, do I have a motion to convene an executive session for personnel, meet and confer potential litigation, student discipline, and property acquisition?
Do you need that list?
So moved.
There you go.
Second.
There we go.
No, that's on the agenda, this is, yeah. Okay, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
And any opposed? None. Okay, as I said, I think we'll be about an hour, but then we have action items to take care of when we're done. So
We let Russell
will
know,
come
we'll
back.
call him in executive session.
We'll call you in executive session, Russell.
Yes, we'll call you back.
That's been going.
Seriously. Oh, we won't. Just don't worry about it.
No, we're calling. Oh my gosh. Beverages, you never know.
Come on, Jay. Yeah. It's good to see you.
Holy moly.
Let's take the bowl.
Right?
We're gonna be,
Pancakes.
Usually
we're gonna, yeah, we're gonna be an hour.
You can take my bowl if you want.
This dark chocolate's good for my heart, right?
That's a good idea.
That's what they say.
The whole moderation thing?
Yep.
Well, they're little pieces.
But if you eat 100 of them.
That's great.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to yourself. We've got to finish some stuff up at the end, then we'll just... Oh, I guess that works.
Yeah, whatever you're wrong, you gotta take action.
Okay. Just keep rolling. That's fine.
That's why I left my phone on the table.
Skim past it, yes.
I mean, if you want to come back in an hour to hear the big improved program, all right, so you can circle. You know, but if it doesn't, I mean, you know, what would you say?
You truly are a trooper.
Now it's cold.
Now it's cold?
Yeah. That was a long one.
Yeah. Brain overload?
Yeah. And it's after 10. I'm tired.
think we should just have a few cots out here for you guys.
Put on a movie.
We'll wake you up when we get back.
Movie and a popcorn.
Thanks for sticking around, Matt, because I was looking at that going, oh my gosh.
Well, I just want to make sure we're good.
That's dedication.
Uh-oh.
We're good.
Yeah, told me I did it wrong. Yeah, Russ, we'll call.
You got it? 9 and then the number. Get the phone first.
Is that 4-4? 4-1.
7741.
I'm sorry, your call did not go through.
That's how he's getting out of the rest of the meeting. He's disconnected his phone.
It's not a bad idea.
Cancel my phone. I can't take anymore.
Like, sorry.
Disconnect my phone.
Hello.
Hey, Russell, we're a couple taking a break, so talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes, and then we'll be right back on.
Okay, perfect.
I guess it's talk to yourself.
We're not talking.
Uh-oh, still didn't do it.
So you're on the wagon, right?
Yeah, I just drink water for 2 months.
Have you looked at intermediate classes?
No,
At all?
I've just been, we've been walking, both Michael and I have been walking 2 miles every day and then.
So we have this.
Opens a window and then you can't. And so it's, you only have it in 9 windows.
Oh,
So like from 11 to 7, you can.
well, I kind of do that. I don't
That means I gotta figure out where to get a tire. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been on that on and off for 2 years. It really, if you could stay with it, it's fantastic.
Michael's actually lost 35, or lost 25. All right. But, in 2 months.
That's great.
So, we're just walking. I think that's a good thing, and then.
You're allowed.
All right.
Flour, sugar.
I will entertain a motion to reconvene in open session.
I move that we reconvene into open session.
Have a motion? Second by Krista.
Cassie and Krista.
Cassie and Krista, Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Did we call Russell?
Yep.
He's there.
He is here.
Fantastic. We remembered. Yay. Okay, we now have, oh, criminy, I'm trying to get into my doodah. Hang on.
Do you want to look at that?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back into my board docs. Okay, so we have some action items now to finish up. A is personnel. Do you have a recommendation, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, number 1, we recommend that you approve the resignation of 2 certified teachers as
Okay.
listed.
And I know that Sheila has requested we name the resignations. Can we name the resignations?
You guys are okay with that? Sure.
Yeah.
Mari Mack and Bethany Jones.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the resignation of those 2 people?
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Okay, Kayla makes the motion.
Second.
Jenny seconds. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B was a possible board response to a petition.
Oh, there's more. Wait,
Oh, wait.
personnel.
Oh, wait, there's more personnel.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
The second personnel is to approve the contracts of the following individual: Robin Shahone Hensgestig, art teacher; Stephanie Peterson, a first grade teacher; Taylor Limoges, social emotional learning; Emily Hansen, English language arts; Katrina Callister, fax teacher; Loretta Long Carpenter, math teacher; Jonathan Cantrell Stiff, an instrumental music teacher. We recommend that you approve those contracts as listed.
Thank you for naming them. Do I have a motion to approve the contracts?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the contracts that Mr. Thomas has presented to us.
I'll second that.
A second by Tammy. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
One more.
motion carries. Do we have any other personnel?
Yes, we would like to approve the support services contracts. We do these annually at this time of the year. There's a pretty hefty list. So these are contracts for speech language.
It's contracts, we have some psychological service contracts, we have some mobility contracts, deaf and hard of hearing service providers.
And so we're just going to continue with the same folks at the same kind of rate and all that kind of stuff that we've been doing? And we just renew these?
One of them went up about $3,000 from this year, but it's a fair.
And it's within budget and all that kind of good stuff? Okay. You know me, I don't like approving contracts that I haven't seen. It's the lawyer in me.
They're theirs.
Actually, they're not, but.
They should be, because I've got them.
I have to.
Under action items?
Under personnel.
Under the personnel action
Yeah, there's
items.
nothing there.
No, we don't have them.
If you slide down to below executive content, there's all the contracts you just approved, and then all the related
I
service
did,
contracts.
that's what I was on.
I saw them earlier today, but I'm not seeing them right now.
Yeah, they're not showing up.
They expired.
They expired.
So do I.
Yeah, I looked at them.
Yeah,
It
no, we don't have
says
it
that
either.
there's an attachment, but it's
It
not
says they're an
pulling-
attachment, but it's just a list of what the things we're gonna.
But I
Goes
did-
in the machine of board docs.
But I saw it earlier today.
Okay.
That's weird.
Okay. Thank you very much, that helps. All right.
It's like, oh, I treat them one at a time, I look in there and,
Yeah. I don't, well, it's got a page thing too. But that gets you down to the next thing, so I don't, it's really weird, the way it's. Anyway,
So
okay.
what is this called?
So this would be a motion to approve the support services contracts as presented.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the support service contracts as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Cassie. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? And thank you for showing those. Okay, motion carries, and I believe that's the last of the personnel items.
That's all personnel for tonight.
Okay. The next item on the agenda was a possible response to a petition that actually is going to be withdrawn at this point in time, is my understanding, that we don't need to take any action on that, so we're going to skip down to student discipline, and we need a motion to approve the student discipline as discussed in executive session.
I motion to approve it, the student discipline.
I can't hear you.
I motion to approve the student discipline as discussed in executive session.
I'll second that.
Second by Tammy. Any discussion that's legal? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. I know, that's a hard one, right? Last is approval of the staff discipline as presented in executive session. The discipline of an unnamed teacher.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the staff discipline as discussed in executive session.
Second that motion.
Second by Mr. Bennett. Any discussion that's legal? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. We are finished with that. On to board roundtable. Anyone have, you want to start at one end and go down the other? Or anybody have anything they want to pop up and say yay?
It's over.
Well, I actually want to mirror something that Sheila said. I did go to the play, and it was a lot of fun to watch those kids who are having so much fun. We had some absolutely stellar performances. Some were kind of painful, but the sets were fantastic. You could tell they had worked so hard on it. It was fun to watch them. And I have to give some kudos to the drama folks in the backstage. I mean, apparently all the backstage crew is part of the drama class, and so they too have to learn how to do, stand up and present and stuff like that, even though they're working backstage. And so I didn't know that. That was a lot of fun. It was fun to watch.
And the choir program was a part of that?
Yeah, the choir was a part of that. They did a great job, and I saw a lot of dancers in the play as well. So
It was fun.
It was fun.
We went back for a second night. So my kids were quoting it after the first night.
And there was some, there was some innuendo in there.
Some adult
lines.
comedy.
There was some adult comedy in there, but it was fun.
It was good.
It was really fun. Anything else?
Madam Chair, I have a couple things just to point out. Evanston High School graduation.
Yes.
We have two individuals that have expressed an interest, you and Tammy.
Right.
4 is a good number, 2 will work.
3 is all you really need.
Krista's
Yeah,
going,
Krista?
I think. Yep.
3 is perfect.
So, and I do not need any extra tickets, so
Okay.
don't give me any.
We won't.
Need any.
I don't need any.
Okay. The other thing is Horizon graduation.
Whatever I can have.
You can have mine, Russell.
Yeah, mine, Rose.
Not gonna lie.
Horizon's graduation is the Friday night, the night before, which is the 31st.
Okay.
They do it a little differently. It'd be more just if you want to attend, and again, that's really kind of cool, but I'd encourage you to attend and just to see what it's like.
I'll probably be at
Okay.
that one too. Just make sure I know the date, time, who,
So
what, when, where, why.
It's a little more relaxed.
Is it going to be at
6
Horizon?
o'clock at DMS.
At DMS, okay.
Also, the BOCES graduation's the 12th at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. Saturday.
And the boost program in GED is May 18th, Saturday at 11 a.m.
The other things I'd like to remind the board of is Monday is our retiree dinner, and so we bring in all the retirees, we give them a nice little bell and say some nice things. You're welcome to attend. We have a couple that have already signed up. RSVP with Sherry. We are going to have it in here, catered by Darn Good Barbecue. And then on the 20th is the Academic Awards Banquet at 6. That's a neat thing to go to, too. Just need to RSVP with Sherry. We did include a what's happening at all the schools the last 3 weeks, lots of stuff going on. And probably the thing that's not on here, which was discussed, is our certification of Level 1 for high reliability schools will be an interesting thing moving forward.
Yeah,
So,
we look forward to good news.
did I get it all? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Sherry, the Straight A's banquet is the 20th at 6
6
also?
in the gym at the high school.
It's today.
And graduation's what time?
And if anybody else is going to those two, retirement or the...
Do we need to go like the day before and figure out what we're supposed to do, or we just show up?
High school's on the 1st. At 11.
Is your husband...
Oh, probably under here, I'm just writing it.
And we don't need to show up for the rehearsals or anything.
No. What we've done in the past is sometimes they want to take a picture.
I don't need to wear my robes or anything, or my
No,
hood.
you're welcome to. But no. Handing out diplomas is pretty cool.
Because I have a doctoral, like, hood and robes kind of thing, no.
Don't somebody need to be there at practice? The board member?
Only if they want to be in
We're dressed to.
the pictures. And
Well, when I have to speak at the law school graduations, I have to wear my robes and my hood.
we'll practice, we'll be there. We'll sub your spots. Yeah, most of you, again, we're pretty good teachers. We'll show you how to do that. You're welcome to come to the practice.
That's on Friday.
We have great kids.
Is hugging allowed for some of the kids?
Yes.
I did, I hugged my seniors.
Good, because I don't think I can help myself. Okay, I think we're adjourned. Anybody want to make a motion?
Move that we adjourn.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Anybody opposed? That's all I'm doing.
Who is the second?
Necessary.
What's that?
Second was,
Krista.
I moved.
Oh, I thought it was Dave.
Dave made the motion.
Oh, okay.
I missed his spot.
I have a bunch of stuff to sign.
Okay, well, I have this I need to give to Ryan, so do you need Tammy?